Warning! The Stone Age Gamer podcast includes a lot of bad language. Cover your motherfucking ears.
Good evening and welcome to the Stone Age Gamer podcast. I am Kris Randazzo and joining me tonight is adorable green monster, Dan Ryan.
Oh, so cute.
So cute. So Yumitaro. Gimmick 2 is out and real, and Dan and I had a chance to sit down with the game's director and community manager to talk about how the game came to be and whatnot. What makes Gimmick 2 so special? Get ready to summon stars with the tap of a button, because the Stone Age Gamer podcast starts now.
Or a hold. You could hold the button.
Or you can. Hi everyone, it's episode 533. The Phillies just loaded the bases, and the Mets are about to take this game too. I'm sure of it. I feel confident. We're all going to die in a... curse you, Phillies. I've never understood my grandfather more than I do now that I've started following the Phillies. This is episode 533. It's the week of September 27th, 2024, and welcome for anyone new here. This is the official podcast of StoneAgeGamer.com. Dan and I talk every week about what's happening in the world of video games from a retro gamer's perspective, as well as whatever the heck else is going on in our lives. And speaking of which, how you doing there, buddy?
Oh, I'm all right. It's been a long week. The cumulative effects of chemotherapy are starting to accumulate. So it's just been it's weird, you know, because in certain aspects of it, like I'm getting more used to it, so like I kind of know what to expect, right? Like I know that Friday I have the therapy, I feel great. Saturday I feel great. Sunday I start to be like, it's not going so well. Like and not even like anything in particular, just a general kind of crummy feeling. Like I feel sick, which makes sense. I've just poisoned my body. So that usually happens for like Sunday and Monday, where I just like want to sleep and just don't feel good in general. Then Tuesday is when the stomach issues start. What's been interesting from like a medical standpoint, I suppose, is that they've been different each treatment so far. So like the first time, it was just like my stomach just felt, it was just horrible, like pain, no nausea through any of it, but just like pain and like, do I got to go to the bathroom? Do I not have to go to the bathroom? That kind of thing. Like we're not going to get too in depth. The second time it was like feeling incredibly hungry, but also incredibly gassy and bloated all at the same time, which is like a terrible feeling to have. And now this time, starting Wednesday, so Wednesday, Thursday, and today, it's been just heartburn, indigestion, kind of like, not the upset stomach, not the diarrhea, not the rest of the song, but just terrible heartburn to where like, you know, I have to sleep like sitting halfway up, so that my throat is not on fire the entire, like just uncomfortable, you know? So that usually lasts like the Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday today. And then usually Saturday is when I start to perk back up a little bit, start to feel a little bit more like myself. And then that'll run until like next Thursday. And then I'll get the treatment again and start this whole cycle. So it's just very exhausting, you know, to feel that way. And like Tums, Pepsid, Mylanta, Pepto, like I saw a thing the other day, it was Pesto Bismol. Horrendous. I sent a picture of it to Tiff and she was, why would you do that to me? Why would you say that? It's insane. Gross. But just to feel like that all day, you know, like, yeah, no matter what you do, just it alleviates it a little bit, but it's still like there in the background. And like coupled with the bone and muscle pain that comes like towards the end of the week, it just makes it hard to focus on anything, you know. Like,
aside
we watched
from the bone and muscle pain, obviously.
Yeah. We watched the first episode of Agatha All Along.
Don't say anything. I haven't had a chance to smell anything yet. I'm just nowhere near it.
I will just say I enjoyed it. And then Tiff was like, because the first 2 episodes are out, right? She was like, all right, well, let's watch the next one. And I was like, I can't, because I'm not enjoying it as much as I would, because the whole time I'm sitting here, I'm like, you know, kind of just burping or moving or whatever, because I'm just in pain. So it's like, let's save that for like the weekend, and I can, you know, hopefully focus a little bit more. Which is, it's better than the alternative, man. It is.
It's true.
It's better than the alternative.
Could be worse. Your nose could be gushing blood.
It definitely could be. It's very frustrating. You know, like, I have a really, really, really hard time sitting still and doing nothing. And that's what I've done most of this week. And it's maddening to me. It drives me up a wall, man. I cannot stand it. I see things that need to get done. We got, like, our washing machine was on the fritz, so we had to get a new belt for the washing machine, and the new belt got here on Wednesday, and the new belt is still in the package on the table because I haven't done it yet. Not that Tiff and the kids can't do it, but Tiff is going to work and the kids are at school, and, you know,
dishwasher.
So I see that, and
are around its ankles.
Yeah, you know, so, like, I see it, and I'm like,
it's a belt.
That's a thing
Get
that
it?
needs.
I'm hilarious.
No, put nipples on the belt.
Quick side
By the
note,
way,
my dad jokes have been pissing off my kids, my daughter in particular, more and
exciting.
more, which is just making me double down on them so much harder. Oh, God. Some days I really love being a dad. Go on.
It's one of the joys in life. It really
is.
As an aside to your side, Dean did a phenomenal edit of that little clip that was up on his TikTok. Oh my God, it's so good. That's been
my week. But
it's so funny.
I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, he asked me if I would be okay with it. I was like, fuck, go nuts, dude. Absolutely.
He didn't ask me. I mean, I don't count. It's all right. No, it's fine. Yeah. So no,
he doesn't
it's
like
just
you. I don't like you either.
I don't like you
watch
either.
Yourself. We're wanted men. You'll be dead.
Okay. Oh, Jesus. It's very frustrating to sit there and see things that need to get done. And, like, I physically can't do it right now because one of the other side effects is that the medicine for, like, this week afterwards, and it gets progressively better, but for this week afterwards, jacks my heart rate up to, like, a crazy level where normally, because, like, I have my watch on and I keep track of it because, you know, like, I have high blood pressure and I just try to keep an eye on things, right? So normally, before I started the chemo, my resting rate for the day, the average, right, was in the, like, high 70s, which is really good for a resting heart rate for somebody who is overweight and, you know, vapes a lot and smoked for a decent portion, you know, like,
had
cancer
for exercise.
Has open contempt for exercise and had cancer at the time. Like, even still, my heart rate was good. The average, you know, resting rate. And then, you know, average walking rate goes up into, like, the low 90s kind of thing. Like, exactly where it's supposed to be. Like, perfectly healthy as far as that is concerned. And now, if I, like, when I leave my office and walk up the half a flight of stairs in my split level home, when I get up into the kitchen, my heart rate will be in the 130s to 140s, which is like working out kind of heart rate, you know, like running kind of heart. And all I did was walk upstairs. So, like, the idea of physically doing things, of, like, flipping over a washing machine to change a belt, like, that's just not going to happen. Yeah. You know? So it's incredibly frustrating. I don't like feeling useless, even though I know that the main thing right now is to be resting and playing all of these games that everybody continues to send me, which is so fucking lovely and awesome, and I love it so much. So I've had the Steam Deck for what, 2 weeks now? A week and a half?
I was going to say, has
something
it
like
been
that.
2 weeks? It's been.
I don't even think it's been
spent time. Yeah,
I don't even think it's been 2 weeks, and it's. You know, you always hear people be like, oh, my fucking Steam log. Oh, my backlog is so crazy. So I have it down here with me because I wanted to be accurate. In my Steam library, I have purchased 2 games. Okay. I have purchased Vampire Survivors.
That's big spender.
Yeah, $4.99. It was pretty great. And a game called Still Wakes the Deep. Those are the 2 games that I have physically purchased on my Steam. Well, I bought a game for each of my kids because they were on sale, but whatever. So I've purchased 2 games. Currently, in my Steam library, I have 42. I have 42 games. And it's just like, I mean, all right, that's fucking awesome. I love it. I'm into it. Oh. Yeah,
you are preaching exactly to why I am okay with not having a Steam Deck. As much as I think they're cool, as much as I'd want one, that
you really
my
do want one.
existing backlog stresses me out. I can only imagine how much it would stress me out having like just so many more games. The infinite onslaught of games to play.
Yeah, it is. The struggle is real. I mean, it's a good struggle to have. You know, and I would have liked, I certainly would have liked to spend a little bit more time with them this week. And like, I did play a bunch of games this week, but I can play in short spurts right now because that, like, I'll be sitting there and then my hips start hurting or my knees start. I'm like, all right, I gotta get up and move around for a minute, and I'm in the, you know, middle of the thing or whatever. It's just, it's a frustrating thing, this cancer.
Yeah, I've been told that about cancer, that it can be rather frustrating.
Quite frustrating. I do feel pretty good though. Like in my unscientific diagnoses of just feeling my lymph nodes, they feel better than they felt last week, which felt better than the week before. You know, so certain ones that I could feel very prominently before, I can barely even tell now. And I have Tiff check too. You know, I'm like, am I crazy? You know, and she is of the same opinion. So I'm really looking forward to, which is a weird thing. But I'm looking forward to the next PET scan that I have to get some good news. I think that will make not that I need the extra motivation, certainly. But good news is good news, you know? So
yeah, a frame of reference, you know, some scientific evidence that you have progress and not just a feeling. Yeah, I get that.
And even if it's just, you know, they went from 4 centimeters to 3 centimeters, then like, okay, all of this is actually worth it.
Yeah.
You know? Like, all of it, it's working, it's doing what it's supposed to do. It didn't just, like, take away my hair. It's actually, like, killing the thing it's supposed to be killing. You know, and progress is being made. So, you know, we'll see. We're hopeful.
Oh, that's
How was
good.
your week?
Oh, it was exhausting, as this month has been. You know, just doing Quizzo every week has been a challenge. You know, it's not hard work. It is so well worth the money to do those couple hours of work, but it still leaves me, you know, I work all day, and then three of the nights of the week I'm working as well, right? I work all day, and then I make dinner, and then as soon as I get the kids to bed, I'm either running out to Quizzo or doing a podcast. You know, I did a show last night, I'm doing the show tonight, and on Wednesday I did Quizzo, and so I really only have Monday and Tuesday, and those aren't also, I have Monday and Tuesday night, and I'm trying to play games for review. Like I got to get through yours. I have to get through this so that I can write. And it is, again, it's just this month. Once a once Jim's back doing Quizzo full time, then
it settles down a little.
Yeah, it's settled. Yeah, because like really, I'm his backup, and I'm only supposed to be doing this whenever he can't. But I'm pretty sure what happened was, he just kind of overtaxed himself. Like he overreached as far as like what things he's doing with his life. So I don't know what he's going to do. Like he's just going to go right back to the schedule that his doctor told him he needed to stop for a month. Like I don't know if that's gonna. I don't know that that's going to have the desired effect. So I'm
right.
I'm gonna talk to him about maybe I could take 1 week a month off, right? Because I certainly don't.
It's extra money, and you like doing it.
Yeah. Exactly, it's extra money. It's not super hard. I get to make my own music round, and the people there are nice. And I'm going to talk to him about that because I tell you, the extra money this month has been very, very important. Sorry.
Yeah, no,
I just think I have my brain's going in a number of different directions right now. First off, the Phillies did in fact make it out of that inning, and now I'm seeing how the Mets pitching is going, and I'm no longer afraid. So the Phillies just scored 2 more runs in this inning. So it doesn't seem like it's going great for either team, but at least the Phillies are they're up 10-2 now. So I think it's going to be okay.
That's pretty safe.
We'll see.
That's pretty comfortable.
You can't call baseball, but
no, certainly.
But you never know. So the other kind of important thing I need to bring up is I talked a lot about the electric company last week, and I spoke to my friend who works at the electric company, and I was wrong. I said, I know it's not the easiest thing to say as far as dealing with a utility company, but there were things that I didn't understand, and now I understand. There's still some wacky shit involved in my account that got me to where I currently am, but overall, I was wrong. I am paying money that I owed. It's just not happening it's not happening the way that I had agreed to. I had this agreement that I was going to be paying back this money that I owed over a long stretch of time, and that is no longer the case because of my guess is something caused my bill several months ago to be negative. Like, you owe us negative this many dollars. And I'd be like, I can't pay that. Like, that's not something. I can't physically pay you negative money. Like that. Right. That's not something a human can do. Like,
I can't not give you something.
Yeah, like I can't say, okay, here's negative $600, and but that means you give me $600. That doesn't make any sense. But the assistance program that I was in, what I think that had something to do with the assistance. Like, so the way the assistance program worked was if I missed any payments, then I would get kicked off the assistance program immediately. So I think those months where I had a negative balance on my account, I technically didn't pay a bill. So I think that knocked me off of the payment plan, which meant that I owed everything that I owed back pay immediately.
Right. Okay. That makes sense. I mean,
it does, but it doesn't. It does, but it doesn't. But as far as like the whole bigger bill thing goes, and really a huge fucking sign should have been because there's the whole there's investigation into Atlantic City Electric.
Sure.
And one of the people heading said investigation, and this should have been the biggest red flag of all, is Jeff Van Drew.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. So something I didn't realize is that the electric company is regulated. So my assertion that, well, who's going to stop them? The electric company can just charge me whatever they want and say, ha, give me money. But they can't do that because the electric company is regulated. So they actually, for any price increases, they have to go through a whole process to get it approved. And they did have a hike a rate hike, but it wasn't a terribly large rate hike. Looking at my bill from a year ago, it's only the actual bill itself is only like $20 more or so than it was last year at this time.
Right.
From the way he explained it to me was that this entire summer was a perfect storm of absolute fuckery. There was the rate the rate
name
hike,
of my sex tape.
which there was the rate hike, which was the easiest scapegoat to look at and be like, oh, they raised the rates and now my bill is double what it used to be, right? That's what it looks like
Those
to
fuckers.
a rational person who doesn't trust their utility companies because of probably good
everybody.
reasons. Yeah, everybody. There
so
was
anybody
also,
who's ever dealt with a utility company.
Exactly. There was the heat wave of the summer, right? This summer was on average, what he told me, this summer was on average 7 degrees hotter than it was last year. Now, that doesn't sound like a lot, but to an air conditioning machine, it's a lot. It
definitely does.
And it's also, the nights were hotter. So a lot of people's air conditioning units were running for way longer periods of time because they were also having to work overnight to get things. So a lot more electricity was being consumed. The other thing,
you know, the fucked up part about that? For most of us, this was the coolest summer we will experience in our lives. Isn't that some shit?
Really, that hurts my soul.
And that
really
doesn't that suck? Isn't that some shit? Yeah.
That is some shit.
We
indeed.
just went through the coolest summer we will probably ever experience again. Sorry. Yeah,
okay.
way to bring everybody down. Apologies. Sorry.
The other piece of this nonsense is that they just installed new meters. These new higher tech meters all over the place. And so people are looking at the meters and being like, well, my meter was nothing like this last year. Like, that's not what my readings looked like last year with my old meter. I want my old meter back. And,
so they were like, that's why we put the new meters in.
Well, they did all this testing to show people, well, that's exactly what happened. They replaced the meters because the old meters weren't working right. They weren't correctly, figuring out how much electricity people were using. So they put these new digital meters in that read it more accurately. So you have this perfect storm of those three factors that make it seem like everyone's just getting fucked. And it's like, well, it's all technically more efficient now. And it really sucks. And he explained it all to me and it all makes perfect sense, except for the weird thing where I was having negative bounce on my bill. But that's their computer system, which he opened. The computer system is not the greatest thing in the world, and there's a lot to it. But generally speaking, this whole
they're
big
running
thing,
Windows Millennium Edition.
Yeah, so I was definitely wrong about the electric bill thing. I've got it. I sold a couple of items. I've got it paid off now. My bill is back down to zero, and all can be fine moving forward theoretically. On the opposite side of that, the gas company did the same thing. The gas company replaced their old meters, which were working apparently in the opposite direction. So I get this letter from the gas company. It was just like, so we put the new meter in, ran some tests, and we've been overcharging you for quite a while. So you've got a whole lot of money in your account now. We're not going to give you the money back because fuck you, but you're probably not going to have a gas bill for a while.
I mean, that's not the worst thing in the world.
I do not mind at all. I mean, sure, would I like to have the money? Absolutely. But it's like, I was going to pay the gas bill anyway. So now I don't have to for a while. And winter is coming. So it's a great time to not have to pay a gas bill for a while. So that is true. We're going to still have to pay the electric bill to keep the air conditioning on during the winter. Because that's the world we live in.
It is. Well, that is annoying but good that it's at least settled.
Yeah, and I also wanted to just say on the podcast that I was wrong. That this was not evil electric company trying to screw me over. This was a whole bunch of unfortunate circumstances, and while I was, I believe, righteously angry at the time, I was not completely in the right. So I'm just making the statement that I was wrong. Because it's important to be able to admit when you're wrong.
It is. It's huge. We don't do that enough.
We don't.
Mostly because we're like never wrong. Like, obviously.
Well, you're never wrong. I'm frequently wrong. I was like, the Phillies are going to blow this game right now, and then they didn't because I was wrong. I'm very wrong. But yeah, other than that, it's been John got so John's getting braces. He got his spacer put in today.
Ooh, how'd that go?
Not spectacular. Dinner was super difficult because he has so few foods that he can eat, and gets kind of obsessive when something gets stuck in it. So like, he tried having a bite of pizza and it got stuck in there, and then it got all squishy and it was making him gag, and because it was this gross thing in his mouth that he couldn't get it out, and he was poking at it with a toothpick and trying to get it out with a toothbrush, and it was I'm gonna buy him some applesauce in the morning. He doesn't like applesauce, but I'm hopeful that he'll be hungry enough that he'll get over it.
Right. Or some pudding or something.
Yeah, he had some chocolate ice cream for dinner, basically. Like,
yeah, I mean,
which is, it's calories. It's not nothing, but I gotta get him something else that he can actually eat, and while he's getting used to what's in his mouth. It's gonna be there for like 6 months. So
I get that, man. I'm a month in, a little over a month with the port in my chest, and nope, I can still feel every inch of it. I can imagine. I can feel the plastic port. I can feel the tube that is connected to my vein. I can feel every centimeter of it. I am well aware of where it is at all times, and I'm hoping that goes away because it's going to be in me for like 2 years. Because I assume at some
certain point you'll just get used to it, even though that feeling won't necessarily go away. You'll just get used to it being the norm.
Yeah, like I would hope so. I would hope that level like of assimilation happens. Probably like it's in there for like 2 years. The doc said, because there's every possibility, if not likelihood, that this first round of chemo will be successful, and 8 months from then. This time next year, I might relapse a little bit. Like, that is very, very common in lymphoma patients. So, I'm kind of expecting that. And that's why they leave it in, so that you don't have to go through the surgery again. And like, all right, we'll take it out, put it back in. So I am hoping that level of assimilation happens where I just don't recognize that it's in there any longer. But as of right now, nope. Like, the cat jumps on me and like wants to get up on my chest, and like they're cats, they get all up in your shit. And it's like I keep pushing them away, like, because they always step right on it,
Right.
Yeah, because
they're cats.
We did get this new kitten from the vet a couple 3 weeks ago. I forgot. There's a couple things I forgot to mention. Like, we put Benji down. I didn't even say that on the podcast.
Oh, I
forgot to mention it. Yeah, like he was sick, but like that happened like 3-4 weeks ago, because like it was like 2 or 3 days after a treatment too. So like I was feeling like shit, and then we put Benji down because we just had to. And then like we recorded like a day or two later, and I was just too fucking sad to say anything. And I can't even go get a tattoo like I got for Bonnie when we had to put her down, because I can't get tattoos right now, which also makes me super duper upset. But we also got this new kitten, who was like, her one eye was super duper fucked up. So people brought her into the vet, and they were like, this is yours now. Cool. So we brought her home. Tiff brought her home, because Tiff is a bleeding heart and just cannot turn anything away. And I am trying so hard to not love this little fucking dumpster fire of a cat. She's the scraggliest. Like, her eye is just covered in a cataract or I don't even know. Like, this cat, we affectionately called her. We have changed her name to Twyla, because I don't know, Tiff is rewatching Schitt's Creek. So we just wanted to be able to yell across that, Twyla! Like, we just wanted to yell that across the house. But for the first 2 weeks that she was with us, her name was Trash Bag. Because that is the kind of that's just the cat she was. She was just the trash bag. And she's the fucking, I hate her so much. I love her so much. Like, I want to smash her. She's so cute. But she, like, started clawing at the port on my chest. And I was like, no. That's not a fucking toy. You can't play with that.
It's like, I know it's not a toy. I'm trying to kill you.
I'm trying to get it out of you. It's not supposed to be there. Or kill you. One of the two. No, she seems very sweet.
My primary function is murder.
I don't know. She seems to love me. I don't know why she has picked me, but, like, she loves me. Everybody, I think it's because she knows I'm the deciding vote. You know? So she's like, I'm going to snuggle up to this one. I'm going to only sleep on him. Like, fuck her. I don't want 4 cats, Chris. That's a lot of cats.
You are not a childless cat lady.
I am not a childless cat lady. I am a child-having cat motherfucker. Just child-filled, cat-filled. 4 cats is a lot.
It is, and like, in addition to however many dogs you got.
It's one less now, and, like, theoretically, within the next year or so, like, it's going to be a couple more less, because that's how time works. It's still a lot of cats. I don't know.
It's a lot of cats.
Anyway, so it's a very long diversion from John having I get it. I totally understand that sort of, and I can't imagine how much worse it would be if it was in my mouth.
Yeah, it's going to be an adjustment for him, for sure. But he'll get used to it. He'll get over it. He's a good kid. He'll figure it out. But
well, he really doesn't have a choice.
It's true. He doesn't have a choice.
You know, that's the other part of it.
Done, I feel like when it's done, it's going to be so much better because his teeth are such a mess. His teeth are, like, I cannot imagine how uncomfortable his mouth is. Like, you look inside of his mouth and it's just like there's teeth everywhere. They're just
it's not where they're supposed to be.
They're jutting in all these different directions. They're just all over the place. And, like, I'm sure that's not making his whole, like, texture with eating thing any easier. Like, I feel like his mouth has just got to be genuinely uncomfortable at all times.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I'm hopeful that once he's done with this for 6 months and then he gets the braces, and I'm hopeful that it all winds up working out where he's just genuinely happier with the inside of his mouth.
Yeah.
So, I mean, other than that, it's been we did this interview that we're gonna play on the episode later. We did this interview over the weekend, and that was a pretty fun high to come down from, because that was a really, really fun interview. We'll talk about that a little bit more later. But then this week, so I'm taking off work next week, off Stone Age Gamer work. So I still have, the Nintendo Force writing and Quizzo and all of the podcasts, but at least I don't have my one job, like the big one that takes up the most of my time. So I've kind of been scrambling all week to get as caught up as possible, so that I don't feel like I have to work during my vacation.
Right.
And it's been a bit stressful. There's I tried to make a video on one of the Neo Geo ODEs that we sell, and they sent me a Neo Geo CD a while back so that I could shoot the video on it, and it was I couldn't get it to work right. Like, something must have popped loose during shipping. So, like, I got on the phone with Andy, and he was kind of talking me through with the basics of it, and one of the ribbon cables had popped out, because I opened it up, and I was like, I've never used a Neo Geo CD before, and now I have an open one. Like, I'm tinkering with the insides of it, and I'm, like, nervous as hell, because it's a freaking Neo Geo CD.
Yeah.
They're not exactly super common, but so it was fascinating, and I was able to get it to work somewhat, but it still wouldn't read the micro SD card that they sent, so I basically had to box it up and send it back and come up with a second video idea on the fly. So I wound up doing the 8-Bit Mods Retro Time DC adapters. They're these blue retro adapters for the Dreamcast, so you can use Bluetooth controllers on them. And so I wound up they're pretty easy to set up, actually. like most of these retro things are, just getting them to work normally is great. So I played a little bit of Marvel vs. Capcom 2 and Toy Commander and stuff on my Dreamcast using the 8-bit Do Ultimate Bluetooth controller, which was pretty nice. I gotta say, playing MVC2, because I still haven't gotten the Marvel vs. Capcom collection yet, so playing that, the Dreamcast one with a D-pad that doesn't, like, make my thumb want to bleed was it was a new experience for me. I was like, oh, this is kind of nice. I like this. So that
it has been
that was
so hard sitting there with all of that Steam credit and Marvel vs. Capcom, that collection being out. Be like, I just not yet.
I hear you. I'm holding off. I'm getting that physical one. I gotta have it.
You're because we talked about it last week, and you're 100% right. 100%.
That license is gonna go away, but still, it's not easy.
Still, it's there, we got plenty. I have the money for it.
We got plenty of other things to play. We can do it, Dan. Hold out.
But it's Marvel vs. Capcom. But it's the Punisher, Chris.
Yes, that's what we're here for.
That's what I'm here for. I'm here for the Punisher.
Oh boy. What the hell else was I just going to say? So the other thing this RetroTime adapter can do is it can function as a VMU kind of. So obviously it can't display VMU, right? Because that was the thing that goes in your controller.
Yeah.
So it can't do the screen, but it can function as a built-in memory card, which is super cool. But you have to enable it. So I had to like kind of figure out how to enable that through the website, and it wasn't that complicated, but the process of getting there was more complicated at first because the I guess the instructions aren't the clearest things in the world, and I'm not the smartest crayon in the box. So, you know, that was a thing. But getting that, you know, pieced together on top of prepping for a theater near you, and then, you know, recording it and editing it and hosting Quizzo and John's Teeth and Ellie's cheer practices, and it's just this month has just been kind of like scraping by. You know, it's always just one more thing to get by. But, you know, I did find a little bit of time for games because I have to. I've played more Yars. Boy, this game goes places. It's pretty solid. I don't know that I'm gonna give it the highest of scores in the world, but it's certainly not doing any outside of the dialogue. It's certainly not doing anything particularly wrong. It's a pretty fun game to play. I haven't touched Gimmick because, you know, I got my basics in, and I'm just really the only time I spent towards Yars. Just because I need to get through that for my review, and things have changed in that game. There's this sense that, you know, based from the trailer and the early impressions and like the demos that people played, that this is a sort of a stealth Metroidvania, and that all flies right out the window within the first like hour of the game. Like that stealth stuff is basically non-existent. Like it is not an accurate representation of what that game is about. It is not. It's a stealth mission.
The 10 minutes of Zero mission where you don't have any weapons.
Yeah, basically. Like it's just not a stealth game. There's occasional things you will have to hide in a door from, but that's such a tiny part of the game. That's not what the game is. But I did, however, I did make an irresponsible purchase because I could not hold myself back any longer, because I've just been on this between Gimmick and Blaster Master Zero a couple of years ago. Like I was really on this Sunsoft kick, and I pulled the trigger and I bought Ufouria 2, the physical copy. Yeah, it is nice. I have to say, I think I've only put about a half hour, 45 minutes into it, but it's a fucking blast. I'm so happy with it. It's super cute. It's just as weird as the NES game. It is. I was afraid, based on what I had seen of it, that it was just a rehash of the NES game, but it's not. There's enough more to it. There's like a currency system involved in it now. Lots of just completely unhinged dialogue. You know, it's a different map. You have to go places and then come back to this like central hub area where your house is. And when I say house, it's a tree with a bed and a toilet. So
I mean, what more do you need?
Exactly. What more do you need? What more do you want to hear? So yeah, Ufouria 2 is great. I'm very much looking forward to playing more of it. Of course, I also have been putting a lot of effort into exercising again. Right? I mentioned it before. I was doing my regular exercise again, and doing fewer of them, but I'm still doing them. Right? I'm back in business. Well, this week I've been talking about last year. I wanted to incorporate some sort of cardio aspect, and I decided to jump back into Ring Fit. And I lowered the difficulty. I was like, I know it's been a while. It's been like 6 months, right? It's been a while since I've played this.
Back. You got to ease yourself back into it.
So I told the game to lower the difficulty by a little bit, and it did. And I start playing, and I'm doing some mini games to kind of warm myself up. I'm like, yeah, I can do this. I'm good. I remember how to play this game. I'm not as out of shape as I thought. It's okay. It's going to be all right. And then I was feeling confident. I found I'm trying to 100% the game now, right? I'm going back to all the places that I missed and trying to find all the secrets. And I found 2 actual stages that I didn't play before. I was like, I don't know how I missed these, but all right, well, I got to pick one. So I picked one, and I'm jogging in place, and it's like, okay, I'm getting winded, but that's okay. Less than I used to, because I'm still walking the dog every day. So I've got a little bit of stuff built up. And then the game was just like, hey, you remember squats? Because I'm going to make you do so many fucking squats. And I was like, all right, fine. I can do it.
Bring it on.
I can fly. I'm a pilot. I can do it. And boy, oh boy, I did it. And then the next day, I could not fucking walk. My thighs hurt so much yesterday, and they still hurt decently enough today, but they hurt less that I was able to actually do my usual squat exercises that I do, part of my regular routine. But oh shit, that game reminded me of just how many muscles I don't regularly exercise. Because I felt like doing the push-ups, sit-ups, a couple of weightlifting things, some leg lifts. I felt like I was doing a pretty decent, comprehensive enough thing to keep me in gear. But no, this game showed me just how wrong I was. No, I'm not going to stop doing it the way that I've been doing it, right? I'm not going to stop doing that, but I'm going to try to do Ring Fit once a week now. I feel like that is it's more time consuming than the push-ups and sit-ups, right? It's more of a time investment. I just don't have it. So I'm thinking once a week, probably Wednesdays, I'm going to go ahead and get myself set up for Ring Fit and keep that going so that these other muscles that are on my sides and in my legs and everywhere else in my body that are currently screaming at me in pain won't scream at me quite so hard.
Yeah, see, like that's one of the things that really fucks me up in this recovery week is that, like, one of the best things I could be doing for all of this muscle pain and bone pain that I'm having is exercising, and I just fucking can't. I can't bring myself to do it. I try, like, and it's not from it's so hard. I don't want to. I fucking can't. I haven't been able to cross that line yet of like, all right, get the fuck up. You're walking today, like, because I know I sit there and I can feel it in my calves and my thighs and whatever of like, your muscles are atrophying, fat ass. Like, what are you doing? But I can't do it.
Yeah.
Can't get out of the fucking chair.
Your mission right now is survival. Your mission right now is not improvement or any of that other stuff. You can build that shit back up once you're done with this, and that's got to be super frustrating to be sitting there and not be able to do that.
Yeah, it is a pain in the ass. But I am happy that you are back on your bullshit.
I'm trying to be. It's not. It's not going super well, but it's better than nothing, right? Anything that I do at all is better than not doing anything. Yeah. So,
yeah.
And the only other thing to mention is that my records came in. I got Sayonara Wild Hearts and Donut County, and they are magnificent. And
that is outstanding.
Scalpers.
Yeah,
they're already starting. The prices are already starting to go back up.
Of course they are, because people who missed this pressing are like, fuck. Mm-hmm. All right, got to jump in on that. Yeah. Yeah.
Scalpers are the worst.
Scalpers are the worst. It's what I love so much about my local record store. I go in and see Bob, and he just doesn't fucking care. He just doesn't. Like, he had when I was in there a week ago, I was in there last Saturday, and he had, like, a Tool box set of LPs. And, like, this is a $500, $400, $500 box set or whatever. He was selling it for $100, and somebody was there talking to him, and they were like, you could sell this like online for like $500, and he was like, I mean, you could. I'll sell it to you for $100. He was like, I don't care. I was like, that's fucking awesome. How refreshing is that? I walked out of there with a fucking original first pressing of the first Beatles record released in North America. And granted, it was a very common record and whatever, but it's in beautiful shape. Jacket's in beautiful shape. He was like, $4. The copy of Alice in Chains Unplugged, which is just one of my absolute favorite performances and collections of songs ever. I listened to that CD just endlessly throughout high school and college. It's just everything about it is just perfect. That goes for crazy money online because it hasn't been repressed, and he had a bootleg copy of it, but it sounds just as good as the original pressing, and he charged me $20 for it. So I was like, nice. All right, dude, sold. Yeah. I love it. Good for you, though.
You'd love to hear it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so talk to me a little bit about the games you've been playing.
So this week I finished Order of Ecclesia. So check that off the list, and I'm on to Bloodlines. Is the next right? That's the one with
Genesis one.
Yeah. And man, they are just doing. I haven't played that one in so long. They are doing the most in that fucking Genesis game. They were like, look at all the shit we could do to put it all on the screen at the same time.
Really just showing off. I wish I liked that game more than I do. I know a lot of people really like that one, and it just doesn't click with me. I think some of the levels,
just very different.
Toward the end, I feel like I really wasn't having fun toward the end of that game. It's like, this is just like, it's cool, but it's not fun. And I feel like that's a problem with a lot of Genesis games that a lot of people like that I don't, and a lot of like modern games too. It's like, this is really cool, but it's not really fun. But
right.
It's really cool, and that's enough for
not
some
having
people.
A good time. Yeah.
But it's just not really enough for me for it to just be cool. It's got to be fun on top of that, and that's just the way. That's some me shit. That's the way I play games.
Well, no,
it's not a standards thing.
I don't disagree with that. Like, you should be having fun while you're doing the activity you've chosen to do.
Yeah, and
with
honestly,
your limited time and whatever.
There's obviously people who play games that just see things as just being able to experience something that is this cool is the fun of it. It's similar to like I have to assume it's similar to like people who play Grand Theft Auto. They just don't get over there's the novelty of what you do in that game is cool enough.
Is enough.
That's just
That's
and
just
me projecting my limited understanding. So I don't know.
Yeah, I don't even know that that's a fair thing because I just haven't played a Grand Theft Auto in so long. But that is how I felt about it originally when everybody was like, "Oh my god, this is so cool." I was like, I mean, yeah, but I'm not having very much fun, But anyway, so I'm on to Bloodlines. So I'll make my way through that. It's not a terribly long game. And then after that, it goes to what the fuck does it go to after that? Like after that, it's the big guns. We go to. Sorry, I got my list on my phone. Oh fuck! I went to the wrong spot. Oh shit! Where is it? No, not release order. Fuck you. Chronological. All right, so it's Bloodlines, then there's 3 after that. Then it's Portrait of Ruin, Aria of Sorrow, and Dawn of Sorrow. So, like, it finishes on 2 incredibly solid, strong entries in this franchise. So I am excited to get to those. Played some more Astrobot. That game continues to be just endlessly charming, endlessly fun. It is so awesome to see the amount of love that there is for PlayStation in that game. It is just, it is a perfect game for what it is. Is it a 10 out of 10? I don't know that matters. You know what I mean? I think it's definitely going to get some very strong Game of the Year consideration, not just from me, but like from everywhere, because it really is just that well put together and just, it's just lovely. Hold on one sec. My kids just sent me a, okay. Sorry. Then one of the games that we were really excited about for the Steam Deck was this game called Still Wakes the Deep. Okay. So Still Wakes the Deep is a first-person survival horror adventure game. I put about 2.5 hours into it so far. So what it is that you are a worker on an oil rig, right? Like, so those gigantic oil rigs just out in the fucking ocean. And as you're drilling to bring up the oil, something happens. Like, you hit something and there is this massive, like, catastrophe on board the oil rig and everybody starts fucking dying. And then all of the scary shit starts to happen because, like, you have awoken something from the bottom of the ocean that is now, like, mutating crew members, and they're fucking gross. And there's just, like, they're just gigantic blobby masses of blood and just organs, and it's disgusting. It's very much like it's very inspired by The Thing, right? Which you finally watched, right? We talked about that.
Yes,
you did watch
yes.
it. Yeah. So very similar kind. I've seen that thing. Very, very similar kind of tentacly monster, just kind of gross, disgusting stuff. And it's awesome. It's really, really good. It's really fun. You have to do, like, there's just a lot of really interesting little things that you have to do as you're making your way through the oil rig, and, you know, just different little story beats that pop up. It's really, really cool. And it is, if it's not the most well acted script that I've ever played in a video game, it's top 2 or 3. It is incredibly well acted, which is just so nice.
And everybody sounds very different from what I've been playing.
Yeah, very.
I guess the acting's not bad. I think it's the script, but anyway. Sorry.
No, the acting it's so good. Like, I am just constantly blown away by it. And what's kind of fun about it is that everybody's, like, Irish and Scottish. And the subtitles on screen take, like, the Irish and Scottish phrases and put them into just, like, regular English. So they say, like, some weird shit, and you're like, I don't understand that euphemism, and then you just read it underneath of it, and you're like, oh, he's calling him an asshole. Cool. You know. It's fucking great. It's really a very cool game. I don't know that it would do very well if it came to, like, home consoles, though, because it's not very long. You know, like, I'm about 2 hours into it, 2.5, and I'm almost done with the game. I think the game, like, is a total of, like, 3.5 hours. You know, so for $30 or whatever, that's kind of a big ass, but it looks really good. It plays really well. The voice acting is incredible. Very, very cool game. Hold on. Let me actually pull up my Steam Deck so I can see what I've been playing. I put a ton of time this week into Vampire Survivors, just because it felt like the perfect thing to do. Because Vampire Survivors is always that, like, oh, I've got 10 minutes. Let me just pick up Vampire Survivors real quick.
And then you remember that it takes 30 minutes to do a playthrough, and you're like, fuck.
Yeah. Yeah, so I've put 9 hours into that game this week.
Yes.
That's so good. It's just like I'm not breaking new ground here, but Vampire Survivors really, really good. I bought the Contra DLC because of course I did, which is just
it's
absurd.
So good. It's
so good. It's
Did
so
you
much
fight
harder.
The boss?
No, God, not even a little bit. I just bought I had this weird idea earlier in the week where I was like, you know what? I'm gonna 100% the base game before I get the Contra thing. And then I was sitting here today and I was like, that's fucking stupid because I want to play the Contra thing a lot. So I'm just going to get it.
Also the Contra stuff carries on into the rest of the game. So if you play the Contra stuff, then you get those weapons, which a lot of them are actually really quite good. So
yeah, I really want the spread gun. I'm very excited for a spread gun. That's going to be just really fun once I get to that. I put more time into Gimmick this week because I felt bad I hadn't finished it by the time we were, talking to everybody last week. But man, that game continues to just be just wonderful. I just enjoy the shit out of it.
It is. It really is. I really, really love it, and I can't wait to get back to it.
I've seen some complaints about the way it looks, of people saying it looks like Cut the Rope kind of thing, and that sort of art style. But I think it just fits it so well. I just really, really like it.
I think it has a great art direction. I think it looks lovely.
Yeah,
I forgot to mention when I was talking about my vacation for next week. I have one major plan for next week. Kind of one and a half. But on Thursday, Zelda comes out, and I'm on vacation. So I'm going to get up. I'm going to drive out to Best Buy. I'm going to get my copy of Zelda, and then I am going to sit and play it all goddamn day.
As well, you should. You should get
so
Cheeto
looking
burrito.
Forward to that. That's the fucking plan.
Yeah, you should get a burrito, and you should play Zelda. Yeah, I fully support this plan. What you shouldn't do, and what I don't think anyone should do, I'm kind of mad I did it because I was really interested in it. I have never been a gigantic fan of the Rugrats TV show. I liked the Rugrats TV show. I didn't love the Rugrats TV show.
Was fine. Its music was fantastic. That theme song is one of the catchiest things ever because Mark Mothersbaugh is a genius.
Yeah, it's great.
But yeah, the show itself, solid.
It's okay. Yeah.
Tell me about this game. It looks really good. I'm super interested in it.
I fucking hated it. I hated every second of it. It is just, it controls well. It looks great. Switching back and forth between the NES game and the modern graphics. The modern it looks like what that TV show could only have hoped to look like back in the day. Like it is unbelievably well animated and gorgeous and all of those things.
You know, it's super weird. Saying that reminds me of how I felt about the Ninja Turtles arcade game when I was a kid. Because, like, the Ninja Turtles cartoon is fucking terribly animated.
Yeah.
The show is a
really
disaster. In animation. I remember being
most
a kid
things were back
and playing
then.
That arcade game and being like, man, this looks like the show, but even better.
Yeah. I mean, it is an incredible game to look at. I just did not have any fun playing it. It is as basic and by the numbers of a licensed game that you could possibly be. And I found that very, very disappointing.
Well, hey, save me some money. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I just don't think you would enjoy it. I mean, and maybe, like, look, this is not the type of game that I typically go for, right? But this is not DuckTales. This is not Darkwing Duck. This is not this isn't even Tailspin. Like, it is pretty generic. I was bored. Pretty much by the second level, I was like, oh, okay, like, this is just it. You go through, you collect a couple coins, and you jump over a couple things, and that's it. Okay, cool. Fine. Whatever. I'm glad I got it for free. It was free on the Epic Game Store, and I loaded that onto the Steam Deck, and was like, yeah, This is awesome. I was gifted this week a couple of games. One I have not gotten to. Zeppelin03 on the Discord very graciously sent me Ori and the Will of the Wisps, which I'm so fucking excited to get to. But I got to finish a couple of these other things first, because I know once I jump into that, like, that will just suck away my time. I am relatively sure. That's the one you played through, right?
Or Blind Forest is one that I played through to conclusion. Will of the Wisps lost me. And I hope to go back to it sometime, because there was something about it that wasn't catching me. I got to a point in the game where it just felt like work. And I never felt that way about the first one. And I have to assume it was something with my mood at the time, because I've never heard this complaint from anybody else. Most people say that the second game was even better than the first. So,
well, and it took Hollow Knight a little bit to click with you too. So, like, sometimes there are these games that we're told are amazing, and it takes a minute.
Yeah, because I loved the first one. I immediately fell in love with the first one. It was a blast. The second one does have some intrinsic differences. Like the combat in the second one is just entirely different. The first one, the combat was all this like kind of weird lasery thing that you would use, and the second one is you have a sword basically. It's direct combat, and I don't know that was it. It was the exploration. There was like this. I had to go back to this place, and I was like, God, I just don't want to do this. I really don't want. I don't want to do this, and so I stopped. And there's
fair.
So many other games to play that I didn't go back to it, but I kind of feel like I should, because I really liked the first game, and I liked where the story was going with the second one. Right. I don't know if story's the right word, but like just the general world building that it was doing, I thought was interesting. I don't know. I'll get to it.
I don't know. I'm super excited to get to it. I'm very, very thankful that was sent to me. I just woke up and it was like, hey, somebody sent you a game. Fucking sweet. That's awesome. And then Rumplemans, I always want to say it the right way, and he knows. He gets it. He sent me 2 games this week. One, because he's a dick and I love him for it, was Echo Jr. So like I have to put time into that because it was sent to me as a gift. So I have to. And I hate that, but also kind of love it because it's the kind of thing I would do. Like, oh, that thing you hate? Here, have it.
Here's the worst one we could find.
Yeah, like it's Echo Jr. too. Like, fuck, man. All right. But also, he sent me UFO 50.
Oh my God, he did?
Yeah.
Oh, I want to try that so bad. How is it? Tell me all about it.
All right. So I haven't put a ton of time into it. Because I just haven't had a ton of time, because he sent it to me today. So I've put about a half hour into it so far. And I think that is I'm checking right now just because, for sake of accuracy, I think I've gone through the first 10 games that are in here. Yeah, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah. So the first 10 games I've gone through, and they are so clever and so interesting. And some of them are really frustrating, and some of them are really fucking cool because it just drops you into the game. And so far, there's only been one where I have gotten like a tutorial. And it is my favorite one that I've played so far. But out of the 10, there's a game called Ninpek that is like a continual runner, and you're this little ninja, and you can double jump and throw stars. And when you get hit and killed, because it's like a one-hit kind of thing, you come back as a ghost, and you can like shoot little like fireballs or ghosty ball. I don't fucking know. You can just shoot little things out until you collect a thing, and then you turn back into the ninja and you keep running through the level. That one's really cool, like old school arcade kind of feeling. The one after that in the list, like, so that was game number 3, and I was like, oh, this is really cool. Like, I really dig this one. The next game after that was this game called Paint Chase, and that one is super cool. So the level is kind of set up and there's some obstacles in there. And you are a blue race car that has basically like a paintbrush attached to it somewhere. And the object of the game is to, within the time limit, and it's a very short, like it's a minute and a half kind of thing. The object is to drive around the level and cover as much of it in your blue paint as you can while destroying the red cars that are painting the level red. And it is, again, very old school arcade type thing, but just really fucking engaging and really fun. And I just very much that, all right, one more try. I could do that better. I can do that better. I can do that better. Like very, very much had that feeling right away. And then the one that I think I like the most, though, is this game called Tactics. And it is just an attack the tower kind of game. And you are given soldiers, and there's like an 8-second countdown, and they automatically move forward a step. And the object of the game is to get your soldiers to the other side of the screen and attack the castle. You got to hit the castle like 3-4 times, depending on the level. And then there's like different units that pop up. So, and again, I haven't put a ton of time into it because it just was feeling kind of off today and didn't get a ton of time with it. But so far, there's like a basic knight, like a bigger knight, archers, and then a shield knight that can block the archers. So you have to like strategically place your characters in a row, and you get like 5 lines that you can place them in. They're automatically moving forward, and you can only move them up or down. So it's like, all right, I'm going to put this knight behind this shield knight, and they're going to go through and they're going to block the arrows and then hit the guy and the whole thing. It's just really fucking cool. And I really, really enjoyed it. And I was like, I can see just hours sucking away into that game. And there's 40 more for me to open up and go through. Like this game is really cool. It's really, really awesome. That idea of what if Action 52 or whatever didn't suck, it's 100% what this is. It's very cool. And this is from the guy who did Spelunky, right? Part of the Spelunky team, and I think, something else too. I think there was another game that's pretty well known, like indie game, that I think contributed to this. But very, very cool. Like out of nowhere, awesome thing. So thank you very much for sending that to me. Like, I'm going to dive into the rest of them over the weekend. But then again, like, I don't know, like I don't want to like ruin it and like just rush through and not give them their fair shake, Right. You got to take your time. You got to enjoy them, but at the same time, play them. Yeah, no, it's really, really, really cool. Definitely a worth. Just from the paint chase and the tactics alone, like just those two, I think are probably worth the price of admission. Like I think you Kris, personally, would get enough time out of those to where you would be like, "Yep, this is amazing. I somehow spent 8 hours playing this thing." I'm very hopeful that it's going to land on Switch. I mean, I feel confident that it will. But I would have to imagine it will, right? Like. There's nothing here pushing any boundaries, Right, yeah, technologically speaking, it seems right up that console's alley, so I think it'll be fine. I think it'll wind up there eventually. But yeah, that and Snap, and I actually played like a little bit more pad this week, because like with Puzzle and Dragons, I've been logging in for so long, like I just usually log in and like do a thing, and then, I'm so far behind on content because... It just is what it is. But this week, they started a new collab. Code Geass, I think is how you say it, or I don't fucking know. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter to me anyway. One of the consensus meta leader in Puzzle and Dragons for like the last 3-4 months in Japan has been one of the cards from this Code Geass thing. And I happened to roll the card last night when the collab went live, and it is the rainbow playstyle, which is my favorite way of just like hard comboing and matching all the colors and the whole thing. And he is really fucking broken as far as like content is concerned. So like I actually played through some long, difficult Puzzle and Dragons dungeons today and was like, oh yeah, this game is still super fucking fun all these years later. So pretty cool.
Right.
Yeah.
Glad to hear it.
That's a lot for me in the week, while also feeling fucking shitty most of it. You know, like spent a lot of time gaming this week.
Well, I guess, when you're feeling shitty, gaming can help you. Gaming's one of those things that isn't very physically taxing. So, I mean, that's why we got to the Steam Deck, right? It's the right thing. It's the right thing for you. It's the cure for what else.
It is perfect to sit in bed. And, like, that's, I think, why I put so much time into Vampire Survivors, like, in particular, is because I can lay in bed and put the Steam Deck, like, propped up on a pillow next to me. And all I have one finger I have to use. I just have to move an analog stick and still have like a fucking blast playing through it. So
yeah, that's always been the thing with me for Vampire Survivors. It is a very, especially once you kind of memorize a lot of the like what are the weapon combinations that'll give you the evolutions, like how do you just get the loadout you're after. It's such an easy game to just really sit back and zone out to.
Yeah, it's a fucking blast. I don't know why it is. I can't explain why that is actually fun. I really don't.
It was explained to me once that it's got a lot of the same like literal bells and whistles of like a slot machine. Like it's
I can see that.
It's got a lot of the exact right feedback for the kind of nonsense that it is, and it's serotonin. The game, it's great. Just like
it really is.
I'm just gonna mow through all this shit, but it's like there is usually, until you get to a certain point, there is usually still a decent amount of danger. Like you still have to play it. You can't just There at a certain point you can just stand still, but while you're trying to get weapons and trying to get the coolest loadout, you're still in danger if you're not careful. Like there's something to it.
It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant.
It is absolutely brilliant.
Yeah. So again, I will thank everybody for their generosity, for not just the Steam Deck, but for the continual addition of things to my backlog. Not that I am not complaining. I am incredibly appreciative of every single thing except for Echo Jr. That I'm just angry that I'm obligated to play. But I will put time into it, and I will talk to you next week about why I hate that one too. So thank you again to everyone. You guys are the best. And girls.
Well, with that, I think it's time for us to take ourselves a little commercial break. When we come back, we're going to talk about what's going on in the news. You're listening to the Stone Age Gamer podcast from geekade.com.
Goddamn!
Stick around. And now here's a quick look at what's new on the official Stone Age Gamer YouTube channel.
First up, Mega Man got his start on the NES and hit that platform hard. 6 original titles, plus another 5 on the Game Boy. 16-bit generation, though? Different story, with only one original entry of the classic series landing on both the Super NES and Sega Genesis. But as any good console warrior must ask, which one was better? Both the Sega Genesis and Super Nintendo had vastly, vastly different Mega Man games, each with their own strengths and weaknesses. Don't miss Kris breaking it all down in 16-bit Brawl, The Wily Wars vs. Mega Man 7.
Wily Wars is so
I know
much
where I
better
sit
than
on that
give it
one.
credit for. Where do you sit on that one?
Mega Man 7.
Me too. Far and away, it's not even close. But
no, it's not. Frankly, it's not even close.
Wily
Wars is cool, though.
Wily Wars is really cool. I feel like it really doesn't get the credit it deserves for being this just super bizarre remake of the first 3 games, and I tried to make that as apparent as possible in the video, because like Mega Man 7 took it, and I'm not gonna spoil everything. Obviously, I love Mega Man 7 more, but I think I tried to do Wily Wars as much credit as possible. So
it's my opinion on Wily Wars has always been, this is really, really cool, but it's got that kind of Genesis jank.
And
which is what I affectionately, I affectionately refer to a lot of the Genesis stuff with that Genesis jank, and it just feels janky to me.
It's got jank in the trank. No question about it.
That's right. Jank in the trank.
Oh, for fuck's sake. Next, Nintendo World Championships NES Edition for Switch is a super cool game, and its physical edition was extra strength cool. But for as cool as NWC NES Edition is, it doesn't really have a whole lot to do with the actual Nintendo World Championships. So I decided to take a trip down memory lane and crack open my old Retro Zone Repro carts for Nintendo's various competition carts. I also spent some quality time unboxing the physical edition of the new Switch game because it's awesome. Check it all out in Stone Age Gaming Nintendo World Championships carts.
Yeah, I feel like, man, that game's just not for me. I am so happy that people loved it the way that they did.
But it's neat. I really hope they build on it, but it's very not for everyone.
I feel like it's died pretty quickly, though. I don't see shit about it online, which I'm really surprised by.
Well, I mean, really,
honestly,
once you get to that cap, you're going to have the same people chasing after scores, right? Because, like,
suppose.
The real good play, it's kind of like playing MVC online. Like, it's like you're just going to wind up fighting Justin Wong and getting destroyed. So, I feel like a lot of people just don't even bother. But as a local multiplayer thing, it's pretty cool. It's got its audience. It's not a big audience, but I also don't imagine it was a very big investment in the first place. So,
I can't imagine it was.
I still see some posts about the weekly challenges, but I mean, I haven't been doing them. I have no reason to go back to it at this point, just because I S-ranked everything. I'm not going to do the crazy big S-rank where you play through all of the S-rank, the super hard challenging stuff in a row, because I'm not a young man. I don't have that kind of time. I'm glad I played it. I'm glad I bought it, and I'm super glad I have it for multiplayer stuff. But, that's about where I'm at.
I'm a little surprised that it seemed to die on the vine quicker than anticipated. But, again, that's also just my algorithm, so, I can't fucking speak for everybody.
No, I think you're 100% right. It did mostly die on the vine, because there's just not a lot to it. There's not enough to it.
Right.
Once you
do it, you've done it.
Yeah, once you've done it, you've done it, and there's not a lot to really draw you back in for more, which is why I didn't rate it super high. Like,
do I want to go get and try really hard to get a 1/10 of a second better on this particular S rank? Like, probably not.
Like, that was fun for me, but then I did it.
Yeah.
I S ranked all of it, and I'm not interested. Like, seriously, having it for a multiplayer thing, I'm so glad that I do, because when you're playing that in a group of people, it can be very, very fun. My kids have gone back to it numerous times when they have friends over, and that's great. But
that's great.
The online thing, the actual World Championships aspect of it, it's not great. There's just not enough to it. So.
All right. Well, finally, Chris, let's talk about snakes.
Fucking finally.
Ugh. Finally. Shut the fuck up.
Snakes.
Snake. Did see a fucking TikTok of David reading Tigger lines in Snake's voice. It's fucking weird. The most wonderful thing about Tiggers. Tiggers are wonderful things. Like, it was just really, it's very odd. I don't do a good Snake. Anyway, think about snakes, Chris. They love rock and roll music.
It's true.
Okay.
Science.
It's verifiable fact. It's proven in the extremely fun soundtrack for the NES classic Snake Rattle and Roll. It's a 3D-ish platformer from Rare, the company behind Wizards and Warriors, RC Pro-Am, Battletoads, Grabbed by the Ghoulies. Notice you left that one out. Wasn't that them?
I did.
Or am I being shitty? Yeah. Okay.
No, that was them.
Yeah. Okay. Why'd you leave that one out? Any particular reason?
Because it sucks. It's not a good game. Not to me. I know there are folks who are big fans of it. I thought it was dumb.
Never had a conversation with any of them. Question, though, Chris, is why isn't Snake, Rattle, and Roll more fondly remembered? Why doesn't it have as big a place in the collective hearts of gamers from the 8-bit generation? I don't know. Neither do you. But Chris does think the game's pretty fun and that you should check it out. Find out why in the Stone Age game review, Snake, Rattle, and Roll.
Yeah, for all this and more, be sure to check it with our YouTube channel and follow us at stoneagegamer.com. All right, everybody, we are back and better than ever. We're here to talk about, let's go over what's been new at Stone Age Gamer. It's been a fun week at Stone Age Gamer. We got ourselves a nice, decently sized X Station restock, which was pretty cool. We sell through those things a lot faster than even I expected us to. Like, I knew they'd do well once we started carrying them, but like, holy crap! I have to bug our distributor way more often than I thought I would. So, big fat X Station restock at the store. So, hooray! That's awesome. Another thing that I've been working on for a little while, it finally panned out. We now have a selection of CollectorVision games for sale on our site. Those are basically their homebrew ColecoVision titles. So we got a whole buttload of those, including we got one Master System. We got Sydney Hunter for Sega Master System. We got a whole lot of stuff, and it's great to finally be able to sell those things because the ColecoVision market is pretty cool, and I keep trying to push us a little bit more into that market whenever I can. I've been trying to get us more Col USBs. I think I talked about these things on the show ages ago. They're like, since the ColecoVision AC adapter was that just massive shit brick house, or brick shit house, or whatever. Was it just a massive brick? This guy made this is called the Col USB, which basically makes it so your ColecoVision can run off of just a USB cable. Your standard like USB phone cable or whatever. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, that's great.
We've been out of them forever. We sold a ton of them, but we're apparently one of the only people that do. So it's been rough convincing him to make more, but I think it may happen. But another one of the we just got a Neo Geo adapter for HD Retrovision cables. That was the first time we've had that earlier today. And also earlier today, we put up for sale the OSSC Pro, which is it's a big deal, and I don't know what it is, but we have a description of it. Let's see, where was that? There's the OSSC Pro. So there was a conversation about, let's see, quote, the real advantage of the OSSC is the fact that it converts interlaced analog video into deinterlaced digital video. As a result, you'll get considerably better results when you're playing with older game systems that were designed primarily for CRT TVs. If you want a well-designed signal converter for playing your old NES or Master System on your brand new TV, the OSSC is an excellent, well-engineered solution. It is a line doubler. So it makes old games look good on new TVs, is what I've come to understand. It's apparently a pretty big deal. We've been trying to get these things for sale on our site for a while, and we have finally pulled it off. They are here, and they are available. And that's exciting.
Well, that's fantastic. Yeah, no, that's great.
Fantastic, great. So with that behind us, it's time for my favorite segment, your favorite segment, everyone's favorite segment. Strap on your shoes. It's time for Week Old News.
Oh,
I just made that shit up right now.
Yeah, no, that was great.
Pulled that directly out of my ass. Yeah.
Keep that.
I love it. I love it.
Well done.
Welcome to Week Old News, where we talk about all the news that was new a week ago. So first off, Go Nintendo reports Mega Man crossover event announced for Brawlhalla, as Capcom continues to make Mega Man make everything except Mega Man games.
Except new Mega Man games. Yeah.
I gotta say, when I first saw this, I was like, oh man, am I gonna have to like give Brawlhalla a try? And then I saw it in action, and I was like, no, I don't think I am.
As a matter of fact.
I watched the game in motion, I thought, you know what? This still isn't for me. No. I don't like the proportions. It looks I think the Mega Man himself looks kind of odd. So you know what? It's fine, but it's neat. Right for
it is
more
neat.
Mega Man content
Just
in the world.
New Mega Man.
Seriously, what are we doing? Mega Man 11 was a really good jumping on point. You did a great job of making Mega Man kind of sort of relevant-ish, right? You made that happen. So let's keep it going.
So what are we doing?
What are we waiting for? What's the problem? What's the holdup? Where's Mega Man 12?
I don't know.
Where's Powered Up 2? I don't know. Let's make this shit happen. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't get it. I just don't get it.
I don't get it either, and I'm honestly frustrated. Capcom, get your shit together,
guys.
Okay?
Figure it out.
I don't ask for a lot. Not from you.
We do, actually.
We do.
We do. Specifically from Capcom.
That is
new Mega Man,
very
new Dino Crisis, like new
is that a
Beautiful
lot,
Joe,
though?
more
Is
Power
that a lot?
Stone. Yeah.
I feel like it shouldn't be a lot. Anyways.
Fair.
Anyway. Back in the real world. Time Extension reports Flappy Bird creator claims he never sold the rights to the game. Dong Nguyen breaks his social media silence to set the record straight. So apparently the big old Flappy Bird relaunch came out of nowhere. And it's supposedly kind of gross in that it's got like NFT shit in it and whatnot. And the creator was just like, no, I have no related, his quote on Twitter, no, I have no related with their game. I did not sell anything. I also don't support crypto.
That's awesome.
So I guess somebody just decided to make a new Flappy Bird game, whether they had the rights or not, and have just
somebody probably just thought, surely I can just do this.
What are they gonna do? And by the time they do it, I will have had money. So
and apparently nothing. Apparently they're just going to post about it on Twitter, which is, I mean, God, that game was such a fucking phenomenon.
It really was. That was big hairy deal.
It was so
big hairy
weird.
Deal, big Flappy Bird.
Yeah, big fucking Flappy Bird. Wasn't that fun?
No, I didn't care for it. I did not care for it. All right, here's a funny little story. IGN reports Steam reviews for Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection show everyone's main problem is losing to Justin Wong. People are refunding the game after losing to the Wezzler.
I mean,
I gotta say, I mean, have you watched a game of? Have you seen Justin Wong play Marvel vs. Capcom 2? It's fucking infuriating. Look, I used to not be a big fan of the guy.
Take the L and move on.
I mean, I get it. It's he went through and like was capping all the leaderboards. Like he, bought it on Switch just to be at top of the leaderboard. Like
that's awesome. Good for him. That's fucking great.
I used to not be a big fan of him, but I've seen a lot of his videos now, and I've come to appreciate Justin Wong a lot more. And watching him play this game is hysterical. I would just sit back and... Because, like, what else are you going to do? It's the reason I kind of stopped paying attention to competitive Marvel vs. Capcom 2, because, like, it just became, all right, this guy's going to get a 370-hit combo, and there's nothing I can do about it, so I'm just going to sit back and watch this happen for a while, and then hope I have an opportunity. Like, the only way I'm playing this game is against the computer and against other people of a similar skill set with me. Like... I just can't compete any other way. Yeah, that's what we're going to do.
I'm not great. No, I mean, if I was that good at this particular game, I would do the same thing. Be like, look, I'm buying this on every platform. I'm putting my name fucking everywhere. That's awesome.
Yeah, it is kind of hilarious. So,
especially because, like, if you watch his videos and stuff, he's not Billy Mitchelling about the place. Like,
oh my god, Billy Mitchell.
Yeah, I know.
I don't have anything in here. I don't have anything in here about it because it's still ongoing. But have you been following this?
Yeah,
at all?
a little bit.
The Billy Mitchell Carl Jobs court battle is happening right now, and it is there's this one dude who is chronicling it very, very thoroughly, and it is fucking fascinating. I haven't read all of it yet because this dude is chronicling it in excruciating detail, but still, it's fucking wild, man. It is wild.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, Justin is not there's just, it couldn't be any more different from the dickheadedness and the cheating and all of that stuff that Billy Mitchell has done. Like, he's having fun, and it's fun. It's okay. It's okay to lose to the best person in the world.
It really is. I would
that's okay.
I would love to jump online in that game and just kind of wait and see if it happens. If I get Waslered. Anyway, moving on. Nintendo Life reports random limited run CEO visits Nintendo, acknowledges great partnership. I mentioned this because apparently this was part of a rash of visits from various publishers and stuff to Nintendo recently. This all seems to be leading to this probably had something to do with Switch 2. Like,
of course it did.
Probably going to be a reveal pretty soon. Like, they were all like, no, this was just we have a good relationship. We went to their offices and visited them. It's always nice to visit Nintendo.
We just decided to fly to Japan for no reason. Just to say, hey, you guys are great.
I think it was NOA, but still, yeah, they visited NOA, and no, they're up to something. Yeah. And of course, this is the time. This is the time for them to be up to something. It's coming. We're gonna get that Switch 2 news pretty soon. Which, matter of fact, there's a little piece of that here, right here. Got Nintendo Life reports. Rumor: supposed Switch 2 design photos and specs leak online.
I saw those.
Yeah, those
took a peek.
Pretty interesting. I took a peek at them because, again, I'm going to take everything with all of the grains of salt. Like, that's just, that's just where I'm at. I don't trust any of this at face value. But even if this is true, this is exactly what I want. I just want the Switch, but better. That's what I want out of this next generation. I do not want a reinvention of the wheel. I'm nowhere near done with what the Switch is doing right now. Give me that with more power. That's what I want.
And an actual D-pad, you fuckers.
Yes.
Those buttons are stupid.
Looks like that's not happening, but maybe they'll actually release a separate Joy-Con that has the D-pad that we can buy, because honestly, one of the more baffling things about the Switch is that Nintendo didn't release more kinds of Joy-Cons. Like, I get they released tons of colors, but they didn't release a lot of different kinds of Joy-Cons, right? Where was Nintendo's official N64 shaped one? Where's their Pro one that has the D-pad? Where's the one that has the GameCube buttons? Like, how come Nintendo didn't do that? Because that seems like just money on the table.
It does. It does. Yeah.
But I took a look at it.
That's a good question. That looks fine. They seem exactly plausible. What you would want it to be.
Yeah. They certainly seem plausible, but again, I won't believe it until I see it.
Still has a kickstand. Like, great.
Yeah, it looks like the OLED version in a lot of ways. And again, it's not a bad thing.
No.
Got no troubles with that.
Very nice.
I hope it does have an OLED screen. I don't think it said whether it's an OLED screen or
it really fucking should.
It should. But then again, I mean, maybe I don't know if that's the standard. Again, we don't know the price. There's a lot of stuff we don't know.
Yeah. If you're asking people to upgrade, it should have an OLED screen.
Let's make it an upgrade. Let's make that the standard. Please and thank you.
Yeah, like, make it an actual upgrade. A reason to buy it.
Anyway, Nerdist reports EA confirms Cal Kestis saga will end in the third Star Wars Jedi game. So it's going to be a little trilogy.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. As frustrated as I got with the second one, I still, at the end of the day, want to know how this ends. Because it is tied in. Like, Vader's that, like, the whole this is part of the story. Don't acolyte me.
It's canon. Hell, Acolyte's still canon. Cancel it or not, that shit happened.
But, no, I know, but like I don't know all of it, and that sucks. So, like,
yes, that is
finish the story.
Frustrating to leave us hanging. But I know I was initially somewhat frustrated because I'd like to play this game, but I don't have a platform that can play it. Except now I do. I had no idea this was coming to PS4 and Xbox One. I had no idea that was a thing. And I watched a video today, and it is almost indistinguishable. Holy crap! I could not believe how similar they looked. I couldn't believe it. They were doing the whole like swiping across, and like some of those shots, the PS4 one looks better. What is going on here?
Yeah, it's weird.
It is weird, but I guess I'm going to get it. Except now I have this like thought in my head, like, what if they release these on Switch? What if this, on Switch 2? Because
I would have to imagine they would,
right? I guess it depends a lot on Electronic Arts, but if they're going to get behind Switch 2, which I would think they'd have to after the success of Switch and their complete lack of support for the original Switch for some goddamn reason. Like, it seems like it would make a whole lot of sense for them to get on board this time around.
Yeah, if the Switch 2 is PS4 levels of power, right? I think you're going to see a ton of shit that missed the Switch, like the big EA stuff and all of that. I think you're going to see enhanced ports, like all of that shit coming to Switch 2. Which isn't necessarily a bad thing.
No, it's not. It's a great way to bolster your library and reach a whole new audience with those games that you didn't get last time. Because the Switch audience is just different.
Yeah.
Anyways, Push Square. The Sony hits keep on coming. Push Square reports Sony priming, quote, even less exciting PS5 remaster for State of Play. Oh, boy. All right, so Sony, there's this Horizon Zero Dawn remaster coming.
Yeah, which
and
does not need a remaster
at all.
Guys,
what are we doing? Like, you can play, I can take the original game, I can put it in a PlayStation 5, and it'll be enhanced for PlayStation 5 and look great. What are we doing with our time? It is simply unacceptable. And, let's see, I'm trying to figure out where the actual quote came from. It sounds like Sony's upcoming State of Play, widely expected to be broadcast on the 24th of September, although technically unannounced, could bring news of an, quote, even less exciting remaster than Horizon Zero Dawn, which leaked on ratings boards earlier today. Speaking on his Game Mess Mornings podcast, ITK Snoopster Jeff Grubb said, "There's some other remaster in the works that'll be even less exciting, and it's definitely not Bloodborne. State of Play, right? It'll probably get announced there." Exactly what he's talking about here is unclear. Obviously, the comparison to Horizon Zero Dawn, which has generally been negatively received, will send alarm bells ringing. In a poll earlier today, a whopping 57% of Push Square readers said they have no interest in a remaster of the Guerrilla Open Worlder. Oh, boy.
It just doesn't need it.
It really doesn't. It's a beautiful game.
It just doesn't need it. It's gorgeous. It's gorgeous, and it already looks better if you play it on the 5. Like, just fucking stop it.
There's got to be a better use of your time. There just has to be.
If the remaster that they're talking about is the Days Gone remaster, I think that's a better idea because that game kind of flew under the radar a little bit.
It did, and didn't it have like a decent enough concept? Like remastering that game.
It's a good game.
I feel like that's the kind of thing you do remaster. Like, that's the kind of thing you... All right, this didn't hit. Let's give it another shot.
Yeah.
Let's give this another try.
That one makes sense to me. I cannot think of any other game. Like, would you do a Ghost of Tsushima remastered? Like, you don't... Absolutely fucking not. That game is stunning, you know? And if it was going to be Bloodborne, that is a big fucking hairy deal.
People really want that. So naturally, that's the last thing that you're going to get.
Well, that'll be a PS6 launch title.
Oh,
you get that.
I don't even want to think. I don't even want to think about it.
Yeah.
Don't even want to think about it.
I mean, it's got to be coming. It's like... How long after the PS4 Pro was the PS5? It was only... couple years.
Well, we've got, let's see, we've got a little bit more Sony news here. We've got Push Square again reports Minecraft is dropping PSVR support early next year, to give you an idea of the state of the PSVR.
Yeah, that
not
is
not even
great.
Minecraft is in on that. And then, of course, we have following the glorious announcement of the PlayStation 5 Pro that everybody's so excited about. Sony was just like, hey, check it out. We got a PlayStation 1 themed PS5 Pro now. And everybody's losing their minds.
It's so fucking nice. I like it so much.
It looks so much better than the stark white one.
Oh, it does. It does. And those fucking assholes, you could just sell plates. You could.
You could
just sell the plate. You're not
or you
gonna.
know what? You could sell more than 12,300 units of it worldwide. But you're not gonna. This is excruciatingly limited edition. This is exclusively for scalpers. This is 100% exclusively for scalpers. Like,
it's a bummer,
so
man.
Few people are actually going to get this thing.
It really is a fucking bummer. Like, and at least I'm looking right now because it's my PC controller for the most part. I bought when they did the 20th anniversary. They did the same thing with the limited edition PS4 and whatever in the PS1 scheme. But the DualShock 4s in the original PlayStation Gray with the colored buttons and all of that, I was able to get one of those. And that is still, I think, my favorite controller that Sony has released. I love the way it looks. I love the DualShock 4. I do like the way the DualSense PS1 style looks, and I might pick one of those up. I just don't need another $75 controller.
You really don't.
You know, like, I love that Astrobot one. That one is so fucking cool. Do I need to drop $75 on that? Like, I really fucking don't. The two controllers I have work just fine, and when we play multiplayer games, I just plug in the PS4 controllers the three of those that I got, and that's more than my family. So, like, I don't need any more, you know?
I get it.
Yeah.
And then also on the Sony collection, this is the opposite spectrum. Push Square reports PS5's building an insurmountable lead over rival, outselling Xbox almost 3-1.
God, that's just... It's not what you want.
Even with their nonsense. They're
It's not what you want.
Decimating the Xbox this time around. It is not what you want. As this said,
that sucks. I want more competition.
This first paragraph is lovely. The buttoned-up folks over at Wall Street Journal recently published a report on the current slate of console gaming, and perhaps unsurprisingly, the PS5 has a commanding lead over its main rival, the Xbox Series X and S. The situation looks completely insurmountable for Microsoft at this point and unlikely to change, regardless of how many rakes Sony continues to step on. Nintendo, meanwhile, is off daydreaming again while unconsciously printing money, essentially in a league of their own. That really sums up the entire situation. Like, it's Sony versus Microsoft, and the Nintendo's just over there being weird.
It's
and
very,
perfectly happy.
Very strange. Yeah, yeah.
The difference here, like the PlayStation 2 versus Xbox. PS2 is the biggest one, obviously, 155 million units versus 24.7. PS3 and 360 were very close.
It's insane.
PS3 ended with 87.4 million versus Xbox 360's 84.9. That's neck and neck. That's like, yes, it technically won, but not, didn't kill it. The following generation, though, PS4 versus Xbox One, the Xbox One had 57.9 million. The PS4 had 117 million.
Oof.
That's huge.
Yeah.
But now we're on PlayStation 5 versus Series X. The PS5 is currently sitting at 61.7 million, whereas the Series X is sitting at 28.3 million.
That's crazy.
So
it's
only
not
Xbox,
a bad system. I don't understand. I really don't get it.
The trend here is wild, too, because it's like, so the original Xbox was a pittance, right? 24.7 million.
Yeah.
But then, like, the Xbox, we go from 84 to 57 down to 28. Like, they're getting worse every generation.
Yeah.
Whereas PlayStation, I mean, obviously PS3 isn't going to catch PS2, right? PS2 is an anomaly. But the PS4 outdid PlayStation 3.
They're still selling brand new PS2s somewhere.
That's true. But PS4
Somebody
outsold PS3 pretty solidly, right? 87 to 11. Oh, sorry, 117. But it's difficult to say what's going on with the PlayStation 5. Like, is that going to... I don't know that the PlayStation 5 is going to double its current user base to reach the PlayStation 4. Now,
not without a fucking price drop.
It's making a ton of money for Sony, but actual units sold, like 61.7 million in 4 years. Whereas if, however long the PS4 is, let's see, 7 years on the PS4 there was on the market at 117 million. A PS4 is technically still in the market. I don't think they're producing them anymore, but who knows? I
think that's probably part of it, because like you just said, you're going to be able to get that Star Wars game on PS4.
And it's going to be just fine.
Fine. Like, it is still a viable platform to release games on. So
might get it on Xbox. I might, just because I have the first one on Xbox and I want to put them next to each other on the shelf. However, I did see that the box for Xbox, like, they've changed the trade dress on the boxes, so maybe it won't even match. And if it won't even match, then fuck it, I'll buy it on the PlayStation.
Like, why would you do that?
I like the Xbox controller better, and I will intentionally give myself a less enjoyable experience, because how dare you change your trade dress, Xbox? Fuck off. That's how angry I am.
You should be.
Make my shelves look all weird with one Xbox game.
It's dumb.
Got like 4 Xbox games.
Yeah. It's a dumb thing to do. It just shows that you care not at all about physical collectors, or if you care, you certainly don't understand them.
Precisely. Oh, God. All right, let's see.
It's a very weird situation with console gaming currently. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. I don't understand why the Xbox is doing so poorly.
It just doesn't have much to offer. Like, it doesn't have much to offer over the previous console generation, just like PlayStation 5, but it also doesn't have that PlayStation history / fervor to it, right?
PS5 it doesn't have God of War. It doesn't have Spider-Man 2. Like, exactly. I get that.
It doesn't have the Sony exclusives, but also the PlayStation 5 is a status thing. You remember this from working in game stores all the way back to the PlayStation 2. Before anyone even knew what the fuck they were going to do with it, there was a segment of the audience that was just like, I'm not going to buy a Dreamcast, I'm going to buy a PlayStation 2 because it's the new PlayStation. I don't care what I'm going to play on it. I don't care what I'm going to do with it. It's the new PlayStation. It is a status thing. And that is a part of the PlayStation 5. I don't know how big or small a part, but there is absolutely a segment of the PlayStation audience that will simply buy it because it is a thing that says, I have the best new game system. Not whether or not what I can do with it, what's different between that and Xbox. But of course, Xbox has shot themselves in the foot a number of times. They haven't been making a lot of moves that have been making the gaming community at large happy. Like,
no, that's
Game Pass
certainly true.
Is one thing, but like the bottom's starting to people are starting to see where the effect that's having on the industry, right? They're just not managing what they have. That's a whole other conversation.
It's weird. Yeah.
It's weird. We do have one more news story to hit. I don't know how much I'm going to actually have to say about this, but I do find it fascinating. Probably the biggest news story of the week, Nintendo and the Pokemon Company officially suing Palworld developer over multiple patent infringements. This comes from IGN. Let's see, there was an update to it. Pocket Pair has responded to Nintendo and the Pokemon Company lawsuit. Let's see. Palworld developer Pocket Pair responds to Nintendo Pokemon lawsuit, says it's unaware of the patents it's accused of infringing.
Well, you would hope so.
Yeah, but...
you would hope they don't come out and be like, oh yeah, we knew about those. Fuck you. We infringed all over the place. Like,
looking at these pictures, I don't know about that, fellas. Seems like you knew exactly what you were doing with some of these. Like, wow.
Yeah, I mean, I find it hard to believe that Nintendo would be going this far and it would be public if they weren't sure they could win.
Right, and that's the thing, that the obvious thought is like, oh, well, when this game first came out, people were like, yeah, Nintendo's going to sue the crap out of them. Look at these creatures. They look remarkably similar to Pokemon, but that's not what they're suing them over. They're not suing them over copyright infringement. They're suing them over patents. So, like, Nintendo owns a bunch of patents for different gameplay things, like different gameplay styles. Just like Namco owns the copyright to, the patent to playing games during a game's loading time. You know what I mean? Like, there's game mechanics that Nintendo owns the patent for, and a lot of times they don't bother. They don't bother suing people over these things. I think it's just one of those things they like to have in their pockets for when something like Pal World shows up that's just flagrantly, we're doing Pokemon better than you are.
Right.
Which, I've never played it, I can't say that for sure, but I've heard that sentiment from people, and it certainly looks like a more polished game than Pokemon does. But just because it looks polished doesn't mean it's actually a better game. Regardless, it's going to be interesting to see where this goes. I'm very curious how this is all going to land. I have also heard that the Pal World company is kind of not great. They're like involved in the crypto and NFT kind of nonsense. So
yeah, that tracks.
Yeah,
that seems right.
Yeah,
I don't know. Maybe I'll get it. Maybe I'll get it and see how it is. I just don't think I would play it very much. That's why I haven't picked it up yet, you know?
Yeah, it's definitely not my cup of tea. So
how much is it? It's like $30 or something like that, I think.
I think that's its MSRP, $30. That smells familiar.
I mean, if it goes on sale on Steam, like that is something that I would certainly consider picking up. Yes, I know I need an internet connection. Steam Deck. Down here in the basement. I get it. Pick up the Wi-Fi.
Well, that wraps things up for Week Old News. We're going to take ourselves another break, and when we come back, we're going to do our interview with the fine folks from Bitwave Media. You're listening to the Stone Age Gamer podcast from Geekade.com. Stick around.
When you hear the words cross-stitch, you probably think of a grandma lovingly making a Christmas stocking, a picture of a lighthouse, or maybe a Bible verse with flowers. But that's not what we do at Shoot the Moon Stitches. We take the old-fashioned art of cross-stitch and pair it with contemporary themes and imagery to create striking works of art that make the perfect gift for anyone who grew up with the internet and has a wicked sense of humor and an appreciation for pop culture. From cult favorite TV shows and movies, to retro video games, to TikTok trends. If it's made you smile, chances are we've stitched it. You can shop our selection of art and gifts by going to Etsy.com and searching Shoot the Moon Stitches. For all your fun, feminist, fandom fiber art needs, visit Shoot the Moon Stitches.
We are Safe at Home, the leading dog rescue in the heart of New Jersey. Are you searching for a loyal companion, a dog that will bring love and joy to your home? Look no further than Safe at Home. At Safe at Home, we believe in giving every dog a second chance. We rescue, rehabilitate, and find loving forever homes for dogs in need, right here in the Garden State. Our dogs are ready to make a lasting impact on your life. Each one has a unique story, a wagging tail, and an incredible capacity for love. When you adopt from Safe at Home, you're not just gaining a pet, you're becoming a part of our family. Our dedicated team ensures a seamless adoption process, providing ongoing support and guidance. With New Jersey's beautiful parks, beaches, and trails, you and your new furry friend will have endless opportunities for adventures and cherished memories. Safe at Home relies on the support of compassionate individuals like you. Your donations and volunteer work enable us to continue saving lives and finding forever homes for these amazing dogs. Join us in creating a safer, happier community for dogs in New Jersey. Together we can make a difference and give every dog the chance to feel safe at home. Visit our website or call us now to learn about how you can be a part of the Safe at Home mission. Safe at Home, because every dog deserves to be loved and protected. www.safeathomerescue.org.
Hey there, Stone Age Gamer fans. Are you also fans of Star Trek? Well, maybe you'd like to listen to yet another podcast, maybe yet another Star Trek podcast. You see, me and my friend Majid, every other week, we talk about the original series, we talk about Strange New Worlds, we talk about Star Trek. We have a third friend, Brad, who's sometimes here, but he hasn't been. I don't know why. So come on over and listen to our show, yet another Star Trek podcast at yetanotherstpod.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hi everyone, Kris here. Podcast listening is free, but podcast creation is not. That's why the Geekade Patreon exists. In an effort to help us pay the bills, we've got a Patreon page set up where you can gain access to our monthly podcast topic schedule, get early access to many of our shows, and more. If you'd like to help support Geekade and keep these shows running week after week, head over to the Geekade Patreon page, linked in the show notes of this very podcast. All right, everybody, we're back, and so, like we mentioned earlier in the episode, last week we had an opportunity to sit down with Andréas and Niklas from Bitwave Media. There's Andréas was the community manager for the company. He's the guy that I talked to on Twitter, and then Niklas is the CEO of Bitwave and also the director of Gimmick 2. And this was a super fascinating interview. I really, really had a good time with them. They answered as many questions as they could. There were a few things that they couldn't answer, which I guess I'm not terribly surprised about. But it was fascinating. Gimmick 2 is a lovely game, and it was really cool to be able to talk to them about the process of putting it together. Because I know we mentioned on the show before how the thought process behind there were a lot of people that were pissed at them for not contacted the game's original creator, and it's like, well, does every time somebody want to reboot if somebody wants to reboot Voltron and make a new Voltron comic book, are they reaching out to the individual people who made Voltron, or are they reaching out to whoever owns the rights? Because they reached out to Sunsoft. That's all I would have thought to do, reach out to Sunsoft. If I was going to make a new, I don't know, let's say I was going to make a new
Arrow the Acrobat,
I would reach out to Sunsoft. I wouldn't go to that game's credits and be like, no, I need to reach out to this specific person for their blessing. I would reach out to Sunsoft and just kind of go from there. But anyways, long story
and it's kind of a weird way to approach it, right? Because especially with a game like Gimmick, you would have to imagine, and as you'll hear in the interview, of which I contributed very little, but I was not feeling very well. But you would have to imagine, if you are asking the parent company if you can make a new game in this obscure little series, you probably liked it. This is not a cash grab. You know,
I can definitely confirm
you would
that.
have to assume the intentions were probably good. It's weird that you then jumped on these guys and be like, fucking dickheads. Like, that's weird.
They didn't reach out to the original creator for his blessing. And
that's weird. Like, we obviously have... it's fucking Gimmick. This is not... It's weird. It's a weird
on
thing.
one hand, I can kind of, in retrospect, it's like, well, yeah, this did seem like a very personal game, and maybe we should have reached out to him just because he exists and say, we're making, not ask permission so much as say, we got permission from Sunsoft to make this. We would just wanted you to know about it, and we hope you think it's cool, kind of a thing, which is eventually what they did. So,
yeah,
I don't know. It's a very fascinating interview. Please sit back and enjoy. All right, so we are here with, let's see if I screw this up, Andréas, the community manager for Bitwave and various other things, and Niklas, the director of Gimmick 2 and CEO of Bitwave. Did I get that wrong?
You got it correct.
Yes, 100% correct.
All right, podcast over. I nailed it. All right. Okay, so I guess the first thing to do would be just kind of basically introduce yourselves. Why don't you tell us a bit more about what you were responsible for in terms of Gimmick 2? Andreas, you go first.
Oh, thank you so much. So, yeah, I'm Andreas. I'm the community manager. I work at Clear River Games mainly. I used to work at Bitwave, but now I'm at Clear River. And since Bitwave and Clear River are sister companies, I also help out with the community on the Bitwave side of things. So I do social media, I do marketing, I do a little bit of PR. So I'm like everywhere.
Excellent. And what about you, Niklas?
Yeah, so like you said, my name is Niklas Isternes, and I'm in terms of Gimmick, game director and visionary, you could say.
Ooh, I'd like to be able to call myself a visionary someday.
Yeah.
All right. So Dan, I have a buttload of questions. So if you have a question, feel free to just jump in and step on my toes because I have lots.
That's what I planned.
Excellent. All right. Well, I know that you had mentioned earlier, and I had seen it around, and I haven't actually gotten around to watching it yet, that there was some sort of IGN documentary about the creation of Gimmick 2. But for those of us like me who were too lazy to watch the video, how the heck did Gimmick 2 come to be? And why this brand to revive? Because I am a huge fan of the original Gimmick. I had through EverDrives, I was able to play it on a CRT ages ago and have just been a huge, huge fan of it ever since. So when a sequel was announced, I was pretty nervous because, like, if you're going to make a sequel to that game, you really got to do it right. But also, I was really just genuinely surprised that, this was even being made at all. So how exactly did this project come to be?
Yeah, that's a good question. To start with, if I wasn't involved in making the sequel, I too would be nervous if someone announced a sequel to this game because it's very dear to me as well. I remember playing the game when I was a kid. I didn't own it when I was a kid, but I played it at a friend's house who borrowed it from his cousin or something like that. Like I didn't actually know anyone who owned that game because the Super Nintendo had arrived and whatnot. So a lot of people moved away from the NES, except my friend who still had the NES and apparently had a cousin who didn't care about their games or rented it away to him or something like that. I don't remember the details. I was like 8 years old, 9 years old or something like that. But then I got into retro collecting at around 2012, I think, or 2011. I started retro collecting even before that, but then that was when I was like, I'm gonna start collecting old NES games which I played in my childhood, and also games I didn't play in my childhood and experienced those because I missed out of I missed out of a lot of games. So when I started to do that, I kind of got into the scene, and I kind of got into like, okay, which games should I get, basically. And when I saw Gimmick, I was like, wait, I remember this game. This was awesome, but also extremely hard. And I read up on it, and I immediately fell in love with it again, and purchased the Scandinavian version and played the heck out of it. So that is like my connection to the original, and of course I also got the Famicom version, which is the superior version in my opinion. And
that has the better soundtrack, right? That's one that has the super full music. Yeah.
Correct. It also features less extra lives, and it's in 60 hertz. I don't know why there's a bunch of whys for the Scandinavian version. Like, why did they name it Mr. Gimmick? Why did they name people in the story which didn't have a name? And also in the PAL version, they added, I think start with 5 extra life in the PAL version and like 3 in the Japanese version. And when, like, I don't know if it was Sakai-san or someone else, but someone at Sunsoft heard about that and was like furious, because that's not the intended way to play the game. You should start with 3 extra lives. So when you got 5 in the Scandinavian version, someone was upset. I don't remember. I have it like buried in my memory bank somewhere. I think it was an interview with someone. I don't remember, but yeah. Yeah, and I fell in love with the game, and like from that moment on, I was like, this game should definitely have a sequel. And what would that entail started even back then in 2012 and 2013.
You certainly took it in a lot of interesting directions as far as making a sequel. I'll just say off the bat that I was very impressed with the game, what I've played so far. Obviously, like we talked a second before we started the interview about how I still have a lot of stuff left to find. But as far as being a sequel, it felt pretty darn good to me as somebody who's I have completed the original game with the proper ending with the Japanese version. I have done that. I don't know that I'll ever do it again without the wonderful rewind function in the newer special edition release. But appreciating the difficulty, I think the general feel you guys pretty well nailed. But anyway, continue.
Awesome to hear that you liked it. Going from there, I'm trying to figure out where to go from here and not talk for like 5 hours. So to make a like long story short, from there, when back then we were called Retroid or Retroid Interactive, we had to change the name for numerous reasons. But we changed into Bitwave in, you can correct me here if I'm wrong, Andreas, but I think it was 2021?
2022 even. March
2022 even.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. That was when Embracer announced the purchase, but the purchase actually happened in 2021, I think it was.
Huh.
Yeah. So from there, like, you know, the goal in 2013 when I founded Retroid was to make awesome games, of course, but make games for Nintendo, like making Nintendo games. That was always the childhood dream of mine. So back then we kind of started, or rather there wasn't any Wii back then. Like I started that journey to actually make that dream come true. And slow and steady, we got our hands on a Nintendo Wii U dev kit. That was the first like actual console we developed a game for. And of all things you can develop for a console, we developed a party game. So we made Picto Party, which is kind of drawing guess game. But the thing was that you could like add your own dictionaries. So you could like add Harry Potter words or Star Wars or whatever you want to add that people should draw and laugh on, like when you draw stuff very poorly or very elegantly. Yeah, from there we like slowly grew. We did a lot of IT stuff. That's kind of like my background is in programming. I'm terrible at drawing. I can't do music. But what I realized was that I apparently can write some code and run a company. So that's what I did. Huh. And so I started recruiting people mainly for the purpose of like developing software to expand the business, to make more games and make more. I like hire more talents to the studio. And we fast forward a bit to 2020. I think it was that was when we released our first Nintendo Switch game. It was called Wunderling, and it's kind of like a Goomba simulator. It's a character that auto walks, and you from start you can just jump. That's all you do. But down the line of the game, you get more buttons which you can use to like dash, attack, and boost and whatnot, which we were very happy with, but didn't really take off at all. Like we got very good reviews and whatnot, but I think people were like put off with either the pixel art graphics or playing in an autorunner on a console. I think people thought it was like a mobile gamey, but then people played it and was like positively surprised most of the time.
I remember seeing, I've definitely seen a lot of ads for the Wonderland DX version, and every time I've seen a picture of it, I thought, man, that looks like an evil Yumetaro. That's kind of interesting. I have not played that one personally myself, but it was funny to me when I found out that this was the same company that did that game and this game. I was like, oh, clearly these guys were fans of Gimmick before, because just looking at the character design reminds me so much of Yumetaro. I thought that was an interesting correlation there.
Nice. Yeah, and that's no accident. I somewhere on my, I think my Google Drive, I have a picture which we sent to the pixel artist, which was like a mood board of how we wanted the character to be in that game. And of course, Yumetaro was one of the mood board inspirations of the Wunderling. And spoilers, since you can equip stuff on Yumetaro in Gimmick 2, there's of course a Wunderling skin you can find with the leaf and the yellow.
I haven't found that one.
Nice.
Okay, so spoilers. Sorry.
I did find
right.
Bop Louie's hat. Bop Louie. That's what they called him in the North America. Is he just heavy elsewhere in the world, right? Or is he Bop Louie everywhere else in the world?
I'm not sure, actually.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. But I found his hat, and I was like, oh, my God. And my son, who was sitting next to me at the time, was like, why are you excited? It's a hat. It's like, yeah, but it's from Ufouria. And then I showed him that game. I was like, well, you got to get that game, too. I was like, all right, fine.
Yeah, exactly. And speaking of those like hat references, like there's a ton. And since we don't have, like we really, I don't want it to sound like we saved in on like localization and all those kinds of things, but we really didn't want to make a text-heavy game. So even items like don't have any text at all. So we can't really we didn't like put in names or whatnot on all the different items. So it's just extra fun when people get references to the items in the game without even having like any text that could possibly explain if it is a reference or not. So that's just interesting to hear that people found more items and more references.
Now I'm going to be looking out for trying to figure out what they're references to even more now.
Yeah. I'm not going to spoil anymore. So good luck. Good luck hunting for references.
I do have to ask. Dan, he mentioned, we just recorded an episode the other day. He mentioned that he got a skin that he thought was a Kirby skin, and I got one the next day. Was that directly intended to be color schemed like Kirby? Is that a nod to Kirby, or is that just a coincidence that he was pink with red shoes?
I'm going to be completely honest with you and say that I'm not sure. I think because we wrote down the list of like colors and whatnot Yumetaro should be, and then we also had a reference like, okay, is this a game reference or is it just a color? Because we were tight on time in the end, and a lot of these skins were like done like just a couple of months before the first trailer. So it might just have been pink reference, but I'm sorry, I don't actually remember. But and if the animator took that liberty to like pink, let's do Kirby. I can't say for sure if that was like a direct reference, but I mean it's very similar to Kirby in more than one way, and it's not an accident.
Yeah, that my kids were very excited as I was playing through through the game with them. They were just kind of sitting on the couch because I'm playing it on my Steam Deck, and they were like sitting next to me on the couch, like, oh, that one looks like Kirby. You got to leave that skin on, and then you could put a different hat on him. It's like they were super excited about it. So intentional or not, it hooked two 15-year-old kids who had never played the original Gimmick or had any connection to it. They're like, oh, that's so cute. I want to play this now. I'm like, all right.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, in a meeting with Sunsoft, with a like former director, he, like, I don't know, there can be stuff missing in translation, but he said that Sakurai was friends with one of the persons in the Gimmick development team, and that it like Yumitaro and Gimmick was a inspiration for Kirby, but there's no official sources of that, of course, and I don't know if anyone would confirm that at all.
Would own up to it.
Yeah, exactly. But like, I don't know, but that's one of the things I've heard. But I've seen like there's a lot of. It's so interesting when people see Yumitaro for the first time and they're like, "Oh, it's a Kirby ripoff," but it's like they kind of were in development during the same time, and publishing systems and whatnot. It's not that you like develop a game and then you just ship it. Like there's time after development for production and all those kinds of things. So they were definitely in production at the same time. But yeah, maybe they inspired each other.
Yeah, I've never really. I obviously noticed similarities between the basic, cute little blob character that's adorable, but there's all the stars and stuff involved too in both Kirby and Gimmick. I guess I never really thought quite about how similar, because gameplay wise they're not super similar. Obviously the Gimmick is more physics based, but Kirby still does have that kind of rolling energy to him when running down hills. He gains speed, whereas Yumitaro gains speed and momentum. But there's a bit of a similarity between those two games, I could say. And back to what you were saying about there not being any text in it. There was almost no text in the original game too, right? I can't think of any besides like the title screen. So it didn't even strike me as odd that there was no text. I'd never even considered it until you mentioned it. Like, oh, you're right. I guess there is no text in there. Huh.
Yeah, like even like we don't really have a classic tutorial either, where it's like, you can go here and you can shoot a star at this guy and then you will defeat him, or you can stand on enemies and all those kinds of things, which you might have wanted from a game. But like we just decided from the start to actually be like, let's be as less text heavy as possible and let the game try to speak for itself. It's very hard to design a game that way, but it's hard to write text as well. But it might be even harder to just like make a tutorial where you just play the game and the game kind of explains to you how it's being played, also without like shoving signs up your face and like those kinds of things. But we have button prompts, so that's something at least.
Yeah, I think you handled that pretty well. My son was able to, like when we were playing that very first opening section, that kind of tutorial-ish section before the classic soundtrack kicks in, he understood that and he was able to kind of pick up the basics of it. So I think you nailed that.
Nice.
Yeah, I was going to say I came into this never having played the original Gimmick, so like I just jumped into Gimmick 2 first, and had no idea what I was doing, but it was designed so well, and the frequency of like being able to restart and there not being a gigantic penalty for messing something up made it to where it was like, oh, okay, that didn't work. Let me try to figure it. It was a very old school kind of feeling going through the game of like, oh, that didn't work. All right, let me try something different because I'm not back at the beginning of the level. I'm just right where I was and I can jump right back in. And it was like, oh, this is like the joy of exploration and learning through actual gameplay as opposed to just gigantic text-heavy, just beating you over the head with every single thing. And I thought, like, a brave choice is maybe not the right word, but I feel like it was definitely the right choice for something like this. So, yeah, really awesome.
Yeah, nice to hear.
So getting back to the game's the kind of the story of how this game came to be, where exactly did Sunsoft get involved in this, and how much involvement was there from Sunsoft in this project? And like, do they own this brand, right? But they didn't. How involved were they?
Yeah. So first time I contacted them was. Let me see here. I don't think I get the year 100% correct now. It's probably 2016 or 2015. One of those two. Probably 2015, actually. That was the first time I contacted Sunsoft. Might be 2016. It doesn't matter. It was before Wunderling development started, and that started January 2017, and I'm sure of that. I contacted a like we were kind of in the games industry at that time because we released Pick the Party, and we like kind of got more knowledge of console development and game development overall, and networks. We made some friends over at Nintendo, both Nintendo of Europe and Nintendo of America, and I made a friend who was working for. He was working in Japan as a Japanese publisher, but he was like a British guy, and that was our go-to contact if we wanted to publish stuff in Japan, because it was a hassle back in the days when the Wii U was a thing. So I knew this guy, and I picked a party for him, and he was like, Japanese people don't do this. They don't play games like this. And I was like, okay. Or rather, he didn't want to risk it. He was very careful of what he helped to publish, because publishing processes back then was like, it took a long time to just do something. So that was kind of like one of the first people I knew that actually lived in Japan and was part of the game industry. And we became friends, and I met him during one of my vacations / business trips in Japan. And I contacted him and asked, like, wait a minute, do you know anything about Sunsoft? Because I checked like their website, and they kind of like make mobile games, and they don't seem to be the Sunsoft they used to be when I was young. And he was like, yeah, they're still around. It's still the same company. They probably still own whatever IPs they did own back in the days. So I asked him if he could like reach out to one of his contacts and introduce me, because I wanted to pitch something for them. And he's like, okay, I can do that. And he was like, okay, I need something like, well, what are you trying to do here? Like, yeah, it's this old IP release like a lot of years ago, and I would love to get the rights to that IP. And I had no idea, like business wise, how that would work, like how licensing would work, how would we purchase it, would we rent it, how would that work, like what would that cost, how, yeah, all those business logic things. I had no idea back then on how those things worked. So I kind of was a shot in the dark, like, hey, I want this IP. How can I get it from you? And he asked them, and they were like, yeah, we still own the IP. We still cherish that IP. It's one of our most known IPs. And I mean, in Japan, it was a big thing. Like people in Japan really know about it. And like in the Western world, it seems like mostly collectors know about it, or people who some reason checked a YouTube channel who reviewed it, or for some reason had it when they were a kid or something like that.
Yeah, it had very little footprint in North America. It was announced in an issue of Nintendo Power as Mr. Gimmick once, and then it just kind of disappeared. And that was it until I think it was once flashcards started becoming more popular in North America. Was when people started to play. You'd get a flashcard and then like find things online and try them out, and I think that's where it started to pick up in North America. At least that's my guess, because it was a friend of mine who told me about the game, because I had told him about was it Nintendo Sunsoft had put Ufouria on the Wii U Virtual Console, or the Wii Virtual Console, and I was like, this is amazing, I've never heard of this before. And I played through it, and I was talking to a friend of mine about Sunsoft games, and I mentioned that one. He said, well, have you tried Gimmick? And I was like, I don't know that one at all. And so we traded information, and then I played Gimmick and was like, well, this is amazing. This is now one of my favorite NES games. So yeah, I can't speak for everybody, but at least that's how I found the game. And I'm glad it has some footprint here in North America, but I do know it's got much more recognition outside of the States.
Yeah, and I mean, even Europe, like it was like it was just released in Scandinavia. So I think Denmark, Norway, Sweden, maybe Finland. Not entirely sure how many of those countries got how many copies, but there's data on that somewhere. I know for a fact that the Embracer archive probably has data on that and knows exactly how many copies of the game that was actually distributed.
I would love to know that number. That's fascinating.
Yeah,
I don't think it's a secret.
It's so wild that I mean, and I'm sure you don't have any insight into this as to why it only came out in Scandinavia, because it seems like something at the time that would have done well. I mean, well enough anyway, no matter where it was released. And just to only make it to Scandinavia, it's a weird choice.
Well, I think it was just because the Super Nintendo was out. You know, it's NES games weren't really moving at that point. I mean, we're talking, what year was the original Gimmick?
93, right?
Yeah, in Scandinavia, 93, yeah.
92 in Japan.
By the time it moved to America, Super Nintendo would have been on the market for, 2 years? I
suppose that's fair.
Maybe it's like because of the weird setup we have with Nintendo in the Nordics. Like, Nintendo is not like the company that sells consoles. Distributor, thank you. It's actually a company called Brawlhalla. That is not part of Nintendo, that handles Scandinavia, and maybe they got curious.
Kind of the way, kind of the way that Brazil does Sega, because in that, like, the Brazilian thing, like, they had a bunch of like their own stuff for years and years after it kind of stopped being everywhere else.
Right, yeah, the Master System
distributor
kept going for a long time in Brazil. But Sunsoft in particular had a handful of stuff. The Ufouria never came out in North America. Trip World didn't come out in North America. So I think just a lot of those late 8-bit games, the North American market was just like, nah, we'll pass, we'll move on. That's my guess anyway.
Yeah, probably. And they probably didn't want to put more effort into marketing old stuff.
Right.
Yeah. So I guess that's the Brawlhalla was kind of like the only distributor or importer that actually imported it, and I don't know why they did it, but they did it, and they are kind of in charge of the localization in the manual and like changing the name to Mr. Gimmick. I guess were their call. I don't know who did it, but. I mean, their offices are very, very close to Gothenburg, where we are located, actually. So we kind of pass it when going on a highway very often when we're like driving south.
Just go knock on the door and ask, like, "Hey, which one of you? Which one of you named this Mr. Gimmick? Which one of you is responsible?" Just go knock on the door, ask him. So as far as like Sunsoft's actual involvement in the production of the game was, where were they involved?
Yeah, right. So they replied, was like, this is one of our most cherished IPs, and then they were like, what is your offer? And I offered like something extremely low, because that was it was still a lot for me, like my business, but it was very low for them, and they were like, no, we can't work with you because you have no track record of making platformers, you have no record of delivering games with like these type of soft graphics and whatnot. So they were it was kind of shut down at that point. But then again, so now I'm going to fast forward to 2020 when we released Wonderling, and COVID hit the world. And when it hit us here in Scandinavia, and like I said before, we had a lot of persons in IT, and we did some IT consultant stuff. And Volvo, which is a very big company here in Gothenburg, the car manufacturer, we had a lot of IT consultants over at them, and they just threw out consultants because it was like force majeure because COVID. Right. So we were we had to like let people go, and we were in a very strange financial situation where we actually needed to make a lot of sacrifices. And at that point, we were also doing ports of video games. That was like a side business of ours. And I reached out to my friend, Martin Lindell, who worked at Raw Fury, a publisher here in Sweden, and asked for basically if there was any porting gigs or whatever that they had that they could offer. And he was like, probably, but I've left the company. So I was like, dang, I missed my opportunity here. But then he was like, but I'm going to work somewhere else in the future. So I might reach out to you at that point. As we know now, he started working at Embracer, and he wanted me to pitch Retroid for him. He didn't say why or how, but I pitched our company, and the vision and what games we wanted to make. And I was like, maybe if we have actual financial backing and like the strength of a stock market NASDAQ company, then maybe we can together reach out to Sunsoft and see if we can get the rights to the IP. Or so I pitched Gimmick as the main thing like I wanted to do. They were like, yeah, it's something like this we're trying to build, and we're actually already in discussions with Sunsoft for multiple reasons. So it was like perfect for them. So they introduced me to the new directors of Sunsoft. I think the person I spoke to didn't work there anymore. So it was like they didn't have any track record of who I was at that point, which could have been good or bad. But so I pitched the game, and here we are.
That's fantastic.
And like that was, it was strange pitch meeting. Like I worked on the pitch for I don't know how many months, but like it took a long time to do that pitch. And even though it's like it's not that amazing, but it still went a lot of care into it because I didn't know what to expect. And they loved it, and they were really interested in working with us. And they got a version of Wunderling, which they loved. So they were like, this is like the quality we're aiming for. So that was just good to hear. And from there and their involvement to continue on that, your question regarding that, their involvement has been like, they've been extremely like chill. They've let us like, we're not doing a Gimmick 2 RPG, like we're not doing a Mr. Gimmick RPG, like we're doing a platformer of the game, the original game. So they were like, they had a lot of trust in us, basically, and we like had checkups where we checked. When we posted images, we posted builds, we posted screenshots and movies and sounds and music and whatnot, and heard their feedback. And they didn't really, all in all, they didn't have that much feedback. It was more in the end of the production, or 2/3 in, they had some feedback about where the aim were going and some questions and whatnot. They were just questions. They never forced us to be like, hey, this game is too easy, you need to make it more difficult. And that was the terms I think we set up, because I was very keen to have like somewhat creative freedom, both in terms of gameplay and of course visuals and story and lore and whatnot. But I really wanted to hear their opinion, of course, because it's still a lot of value for us and for the company and for the team. But you should also know that the staff at Sunsoft, like none of them were people that was around during the release of Gimmick 1. At least from what I know, like the person I talked to didn't have any long history working at Sunsoft, but he has had a long history with Sunsoft. So I think the only big thing that they were really, really into, like saying that we needed to fix stuff, was Yumitaro. Like if we posted stuff and they were like, we only want to approve Yumitaro to just make sure that he looks the way we want him to look. So I think that was the only bigger thing, actually.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I guess I was a big Sunsoft fan in the NES days, so seeing their resurgence this generation has been really interesting to watch. Like Blaster Master is one of my favorite games ever, and those 3 Blaster Master games that Indie Creates made were just like a dream come true. They were phenomenal, and I haven't tried Ufouria 2 yet, but I loved Ufouria. And then there's Gimmick. So you had mentioned you're pitching to Sunsoft on how to get this game made, but Bitwave, I believe, was involved in the Gimmick Special Edition that released, last year? Was that how did that work? How did that one come to be? Was that like preparation for this game? We're messing with this IP anyway. What was the story behind that one, and were you involved in that at all?
We were only publishers, actually, so we weren't involved at all. I think the production of that game started maybe during the same time as we did Gimmick 2. I'm not 100% sure. And that was made by City Connection, another Japanese company, so which also has like a history with Sunsoft and people at Sunsoft, of course. So they developed the game and all the things around it, like the features and the leaderboards and all those things. And we had connections with City Connection, no pun intended, for like other stuff, because we worked closely with other Embracer companies, which also had a relationship with City Connection. So when we didn't, like, Sunsoft didn't really tell us about this. I think we learned about it before Sunsoft told us about it, but it really doesn't matter, actually. Like, in the end, we talked to them and asked if we could publish it, because it would make sense to have both the first one and the second one in one portfolio, because it would be, it would just make sense to have both of the games basically in the same catalog.
Right.
So that's that. And so we discussed with City Connection and Sunsoft, of course. So we published it in the West and in Japan and so on. That's where City Connection is still the publisher, I think.
I rather liked that release. I feel like Gimmick 2 feels more right, honestly. I had a few small issues with that release. I was just glad to see it get released broadly around the world. At least on the Switch version, there is a tiny bit of input delay, which, as you know, in a game like Gimmick, is a killer. I didn't mind it so much, but I have a friend who is like a top tier speedrunner of the original Gimmick, and he was like, I can't play this. I can't play it this way. So I was kind of hoping to get some questions on a bit more of the programming of that one, but I will save that for another day. Back to the
sorry about that.
No, you don't have to apologize.
No, I mean, sorry, I can't give you more information regarding the technical details, but I mean, that's something that we have been very keen on as well, and hopefully your friend has played Gimmick 2 and doesn't feel like there's that much input lag and whatnot. And I mean, we've been doing a lot of Tatsujin Towa plan releases for old shooters and been trying really hard to minimize the input lag as much as possible. So that's really something we always strive towards.
Yeah, it feels phenomenal. I talked to him a little bit about Gimmick 2. I was surprised at his initial reaction to it, because I played the first level and I was like, I just love this. I absolutely love this. I have to talk to my friend and see what he thinks of it. I'm not going to name him just because I don't necessarily want to point him out in specific, but I was surprised to say that he I think his first reaction was, I hate it. I was like, how? Why? And honestly, the first thing that turned him off was the way the star is summoned. He said, I'm used to holding the button to summon the star and then letting go to let go of the star, and you have to press a button now, and I can't play it this way. It's driving me crazy. That was before we noticed that you can just go into the menu and switch it. I looked it up after I had talked to him later in the day. I was like, you can actually switch it to work that other way. He's like, all right, well, he's going to give it another chance, because he really wants to like the game, but he is an extreme stickler for the first game. And I was surprised that he wasn't digging it. But I haven't talked to him since. That was a couple of days ago. I'm sure he's put more time into it, but I'll let you know what he thinks. But that was a big shock to me about how much that meant to him, because I could not have had a more different reaction. I was nervous about it, but I mean, a minute or two into it, I was like, it feels so much better than the first Gimmick Special Edition did, as far as like just actually feeling like I'm playing it on a CRT. And it's so damn clever. The whole time I'm playing this game, I can't get over how clever these puzzles are, and kind of leads me into a different point about the game's development that I think is interesting, because you had mentioned before that somebody was angry about from the original game about having more lives, and that was, the original game is extraordinarily difficult. It's punishing, and it doesn't really give you a lot of opportunity for experimentation so much, because you always have to be afraid, if I mess this up and I die, then I'm going to have to go back and do a bunch of other stuff. Whereas this one, I feel like the puzzles are even more devious, as far as like things that you need to do to bounce your star around and then land on it and ride it and jump on top of this bad guy and make him jump so you can jump onto this other platform and get in there. And when you finally pull it off, you feel like I wanted to cheer at some of the things I pulled off to get those treasure chests, because it made me so excited. But it was also easier for me to want to keep trying and failing over and over again, because I knew there wasn't some sort of limitation on lives, and I was eventually going to get a game over and then have to start a whole bunch of stuff over again. So I really appreciated how this game respects my time. It kind of made it feel like a cross between Gimmick and something more modern like Celeste or Super Meat Boy, in that it just encourages, no, just keep trying. It's instantaneous. Try again, try again, try again, or give up and move on. Move on with the stage. But so how did you get from like the original game being so focused on this kind of punishing difficulty to being as forgiving in at least the aspect of being able to retry things? Because the game's not easy at all. You nailed the difficulty, but it's encouraging. It's very good at encouraging you to keep trying, hammering your way at it and mastering it that way. I guess the question I'm very wordily getting to is how did you reconcile those two different philosophies into what you have ultimately landed on?
Yeah, so I think from the get-go we were like, scorekeeping and extra lives and those kinds of things are a little bit of a thing of the past. It's still relevant if you want to develop design a game like that, but we didn't feel like, of course I love the original and like there's like depth into that system as well with combos and all those kinds of things you can do to get extra lives, and if you know about that then that's awesome, but the game really doesn't always tell you about it. And yeah, like you can experiment in the old game, different ways to defeat enemies, and it will give you more score or less score depending on how you defeat it. And we were like, that's like, it's so many like secrets. It doesn't really fit like the modern vision we have for the game because it needs to be more accessible and a bit modernized, but it can't really be, also it can't be really too modernized because that might be like the fans might be upset because it doesn't really have the difficulty you would expect. From start, we aimed for the game to be actually a lot easier than the end result was. But somewhere down the line, we were like, we need to really focus now where we put our efforts in. And then we said, okay, I think we need to focus on the challenge first and the easier paths later, because it's not always, but most of the time in our experience, it's easier for us to do something that's hard or complex to pull off to make it easier rather than the other way around. Like if you have an easy path, it's harder to make it hard and interesting. But if you have something interesting, it's easier to make that easier, or at least that's what we found out. So I don't know if that answers your question, but yeah, it's been a long way of proof of concepting and testing stuff in pre-production and whatnot. So yeah, it took a lot of time to nail down the exact level of difficulty the game would have.
Oh, well, I'm happy that you landed where you landed. I think it's a really nice middle ground for this kind of a game.
I've been really pleasantly surprised about the and Kris and I, we talked about it in the episode we recorded a day or two ago too, but we were just talking about how it never feels unfair, right? It's like, I see what I did wrong. I see like that balance is really, really dialed in, and it for a game that is so physics based and is, it like Kris just said, like it is a tough game. This is not, I wouldn't go like, I'm not going to say that this is an easy game, but it is very forgiving, and that balance is struck really, really well. Yeah,
I think we also took some of the, like, of course you reuse things that work sometimes. You don't want to reuse everything, of course, but like that was something from Wunderling as well. Like we designed it in the mind of the Switch, because if you're traveling, commuting by bus or some other public transport, or you had a minute to play, then you could play from checkpoint to checkpoint in like under like 5 minutes most of the time, if you know how to nail down the puzzle or the challenge or whatever you were trying to overcome. So I think that also kind of bled into Gimmick 2 as well, that people are busy. You don't want to accidentally run out of battery. You don't want to play the same thing over and over again. There's no of course, people might find it satisfactory to do that kind of thing, like in Gimmick 1, where you have to play through a big chunk, a very long segment before you get a checkpoint. Actually, it's not that long when you get the checkpoint, but you don't see the checkpoints in Gimmick 1. So I think that's one of the things. But here, we definitely have more checkpoints in this game, and we're like, and when you get to a checkpoint, you get full health, because it's like, if you get to a checkpoint and you have 1 health, you can, and since we don't have extra lives or anything like that, you can just, okay, then I'm just gonna jump into some spikes here and just restart from that checkpoint. That would be how players would do it. So that's why we're like, replenish all of your health each time you reach
towards
a checkpoint.
the end of the game, I was very thankful for those checkpoints towards the end of the game. I'd be like, I'm down to my last health. Oh, thank God. All right, back in business. There's very a sense of relief there. One of the things that has come up a bunch, because I've been super excited for this game for a little while now, and whenever I post something about it, somebody always invariably jumps in and says, I'm not excited at all. This looks like a dumb cash grab, and the original creator had nothing to do with it, so I'm not supporting it. I remember seeing some sort of tweet from, I think it was Tomomi Sakai was the original creator of the game, found out about the game, and he didn't know about it beforehand. I mean, you've explained to me how the game came to be, and actually Dan and I were just talking about it, because on one surface level, it seems like a weird complaint, but then when you think about it just a little bit further, like, well, does every new game reach out to the original game's creator and ask for their input? I guess I don't really understand how that works, but have you been in contact with the game's original creator? Was he involved or consulted in any way, shape, or form during the process? And or has he played the game now, and what does he think?
Yeah. He was on our list to be contacted, but it didn't really happen from the start. Like, of course, we know about him, and we know about his history with Sunsoft and whatnot. Not to say too much. I think that's more a question to Andreas. But if we want to take it from, of course, we appreciate all the things he's done, and the game wouldn't be the game if it wasn't for him. But we have reached out to him, and he of course knows about the game now, and he's gonna get a version of it, but he's not in the industry anymore, and he is doing something completely different. And he reached out to him and asked if he wanted to be in special thanks and credits and whatnot, which he declined, because he was like, I had nothing to do with this actually. So yeah, I mean, it's a bit of a sensitive area. I've come to understand, because it's like Star Wars without George Lucas and whatnot, and all those kinds of things. And is Super Mario without Shigeru Miyamoto? I don't know how much he actually is involved with the design process or those kinds of things anymore. But of course, he works at Nintendo. But it's a tough subject, of course. I mean, if someone down the 30 years later will do a Wunderling 2, I mean, of course, I would have wanted to be. Well, I can't say for sure, in 30 years, what I will be doing, and if I even care. If anyone would make a sequel to that game in 30 years, if it becomes the new Gimmick for some reason, I, of course, would have wanted to be contacted, and if I would care or be in the industry, I would want to have something to do with it. But then again, if I wouldn't produce it, I wouldn't want to shake the team or those the team or the creative process of the team making the sequel, of course, because it's their thing to do. But I think we also asked Sunsoft about do you have any documentation from the original game, if there are any unused ideas and whatnot that the original creator had. And I think the reply was just no, there's nothing like that. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure at this point, actually.
Yeah, no, we reached out to Sakai afterwards and asked him if he wanted to be in credits and such. And he said that since he's not involved, he doesn't want to, but he's super happy that the legacy of Gimmick continues to inspire people all over the world. And so it's all good.
Well, that's wonderful. That's wonderful to hear. That's what I assumed it would end up in. I'm very curious what he would have to say about the final product too, because like I said, I was talking about my friend who's a staunchly into it and was turned off straight away, and me on the other hand, I'm a huge fan of the original Gimmick, and I couldn't be happier with the sequel. So it seems like, at least in my 2-person experience, there's a lot of different reactions that can be made to the game. But so far, the at least the reviews and the buzz around it, I'm also reviewing the game. I'm going to be reviewing it for Nintendo Force magazine and for Stone Age Gamer. So I'm trying not to read other people's reviews because I kind of like to make sure I only form my own opinions. But at least the buzz around it seems to be genuinely positive. So that's pretty darn cool. Okay. This is a big question for me, because this was the point where I immediately started to have just the most faith in the product because I am a huge fan. How did David Wise get involved in the project? Whose idea was it to ask him to join, and how much of the soundtrack was he responsible for?
Yeah, that's a good question, and I'm not 100% sure how we actually got David, but we got him for somehow. So we were discussing who would make the soundtrack, because for me and for a lot of Gimmick fans, the soundtrack is important. And it needs to be done right. But it also needs to fit whatever game we're making. We can't just slap on whatever was made with like a remix and call it a day. And if it doesn't match the gameplay and whatnot, it won't work. So we had our local composer we worked with for Wundling DX, and he was busy doing other stuff, and he had no relationship to the original game. And he was like, well, if you just think about it, which other composer would you want to work with? And then I was like, okay, like if I can get the Gimmick IP, then maybe I can shoot for the stars and see if we can get someone else. So I think it was me and the producer at that time, Marcus. We had a discussion. We sat down and we were like thinking about different composers, and of course we thought of the original composer as well. For that matter, we also decided not to go with him because he, Japanese, and it's very hard for us to design stuff and send to the person. And maybe he would need to compose stuff beforehand and whatnot, and be in different time zones and those kinds of things. We would want someone as local as possible, or that was the wishes of the team in production. So we thought about it, and we thought about some composers, and then we were like, yeah, David Wise is one of both our favorite composers of all time. And for some reason, it sounds like I'm making this up, but he followed me on Twitter the same day or something. It's like the microphones were on or something, and he got commercial for Wunderling or something like that. I don't know. It was very weird. I'm 100% sure he followed me on Twitter the same day because I was tweeting something, or the company's Twitter, something like that. And then we were like, maybe we can just approach him and see if he's available. And we did. And he was available because he was working with a development team that either was working with people in Russia or Ukraine, or was Russian or from Ukraine. I don't really remember, where production was halted because of, the invasion and whatnot.
Right.
So he was all of a sudden available for work right when we emailed him. So that was weird. And he was super excited for the project because I sent him the old soundtrack. I showed him why this game matters and why the music is so important in this game. And he immediately was like, I know this sound chip, and I never got to work with this sound chip because we only worked with European cartridges, which couldn't have these kinds of sound chips in them, or so we thought. Or no, I don't know if maybe it's possible today, but back then, no, I don't think it's possible to play those chips in the European NES. I think that's expansion port or something like that. I don't know. I'm not going to be 100% technical here, but anyways, he never when he worked with Rare. And other companies on NES games, he only had the basic NES sound banks. So he immediately recreated the Sunsoft sound bank in his modern day music application, so he could actually reproduce the Sunsoft sounds, which was awesome. And that was before we signed him, so he was very excited for it.
Wow. Yeah, I have he's like my dream interview. I've been trying to muster up the nerve to ask him to come on the show for a couple of years because I have a ton of questions for him. But once you announced that he was involved in the project, it honestly lifted a whole bunch of concerns I had. It's like, I was nervous about making a Gimmick 2, but it's like, oh, David Wise is involved? Clearly they're going for quality. It is an interesting soundtrack too. I think it's wonderful. It's less melody driven than the original soundtrack. You know, there's like some really hummable tunes that stick in my head. I have the original soundtrack on vinyl. I was just listening to it the other day. That one is very melody driven, and I think this one is a little bit more. It's got a lot more ambiance, and it's a really wonderful connection. But I also like how he didn't rely on reprising original tunes, like you said. Like you play a newer version of a game and the soundtrack is just remix of older songs. It's kind of cool, but I'm here for fun original stuff too. And I was always pleasantly surprised when I hear a tune from the original, but also have been thrilled with the soundtrack otherwise as just being really, really wonderful modern David Wise music. All right, let's see. Limited time that we have here. Let me see what more questions I can get to. Unless you had something else to mention about the soundtrack.
No, it was just like it's. I know people have been a bit, sad on social media that it's not the same as the original. Like, I love the soundtrack and it's amazing, and I think it fits the game perfectly because when you play the game, you like the music actually complements the gameplay. It's not very stressful because you need to take it easy sometimes, and our levels are much longer than the original. Like there was a lot of discussion how we would build up the levels. Like, would we do it like in the original? Would we do it like in Super Mario World, for example? Like you have multiple levels you select, or how would we do it? But then we settled with like, okay, let's do it like they did in the original and make long levels, and then after half of the level, we changed the whole tile set. We changed the visuals of the level, and we also changed the soundtrack. That was one of the goals, to actually keep something from the original game into the new one. And I don't know how many people picked up on that, but that's actually what happens in the original game, where you go through different like biomes or whatever you want to call it, and you actually switch soundtrack in the middle of the level. Instead of it being another level, it's just the same level. And so since the levels are long, the ambience is the soundtrack is a bit longer. Like all of the tracks are longer than the original, and they don't get very repetitive. And I think it complements gameplay perfectly. But if you just listen to the soundtrack and you haven't played the game and you expect it to be like the original, you might get disappointed. But that is like music. It's very personal. Like if you like it, you like it. If you don't like it, you don't like it. It's it's a personal thing, of course.
Yeah, definitely within the context of the game, it works phenomenally. It is not as immediately full of hooks like the original soundtrack is, but again, within the context of the game, I don't think more active music would have worked as well, and I think that was a really smart decision ultimately that was made. So I guess this next question could kind of tie into that a little bit. I wanted to ask you if you could tell us anything more about the physical edition of the game that's coming out. And I guess now that I've played through the game and heard the majority of its music, are there any talks about possibly putting this soundtrack on vinyl, similar to how the original Gimmick is available on vinyl? But yeah, is there anything you can share at all about the physical edition? And I guess also, why did you go with limited run? How does that kind of stuff work? Like deciding which company to go with in order to create physical versions of the games. I know there's people out there who despise limited run. I am not one of them. I understand that they're not a perfect company, but I've been largely happy with the products I've gotten from them. But yeah, why did you go with limited run versus another company? How exactly does even that work, approaching somebody about creating a physical edition for a game?
I guess that's a question for me. And I just wanted to clarify. So the physical edition is not made by Limited Run, actually. So the game is published by Clear River Games, which is the company I work for. And Clear River Games is publisher both for the digital and the physical. Limited Run is involved as well, but they are involved in like our American partner because they know the US market so well. So they are selling the Clear River product on the American market. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So how does that work? How is so basically Clear River is partnering with Limited Run for distribution, not necessarily the creation of the product?
Yes, that's correct. So the product will be created solely by Clear River together with Bitwave.
Fascinating.
Cool.
And for like the selecting Limited Run as a partner, I mean, it's a bit obvious if you like look at it from a business perspective, since they're also our sibling company owned by the same, free mode
right, I
group.
forgot about that.
Yeah, so we're actually working, like from the Clear River side, we are working a lot together with Limited Run. They are distributing a lot of like the Clear River titles in the US, but we're also like sometimes sharing contracts, like they're doing the North American version while we're doing the European version.
I see. Is there any sort of details about it that you can go into? I know it just is, the only information I could find on it so far is 2025, which is, I guess, just where we are as the industry. The digital version comes out first, and then you wait a long time for the physical edition, which is sometimes painful. Like, I really want to play Marvel vs. Capcom right now, but I don't want to buy it twice, and I'm going to need to have that one physically because that Marvel license is not going to last forever. But as far as any sort of time frame or any other things that like, is it going to have a printed manual? Has that stuff been worked out yet? Or anything along those lines? Anything at all you can tell us about the physical edition?
Yeah, it's hard to share any details what's going to be included at this point. However, like the reason why the physical in this case is taking a bit longer is because we want to launch the game on PlayStation and Xbox as well, because our plan is to do physical both for Switch and PlayStation, and it makes sense to ship both versions at the same time.
Gotcha. Now that's interesting that you just mentioned PlayStation and Switch. Why not Xbox as well?
Xbox is tough when it comes to physical. Like, it's hard to go into details, but for like Clear River, it doesn't really make sense to make Xbox versions. Yeah, I cannot really go into like more details than that, really. Even though we love the Xbox, we are shipping a majority of our digital titles on the Xbox. But physical is a whole other story, business-wise.
Fascinating. All right.
That was a very diplomatic answer. Well done.
Thank you.
That was good. You're good at this.
Learning.
Us too. Yeah.
We've been doing this podcast for darn near a decade, and we're never not learning. There's always something more to learn. Again, I have plenty more questions. Dan, did you want to jump in before I start peppering them with more?
I mean, you're kind of nailing all of the questions. I'm just the eye candy here on the audio only podcast.
All right. I have been utterly fascinated by, and I don't even know if this is necessarily specifically tied to Gimmick 2 or what you even know about it, but because you had mentioned that you weren't really involved in the whole Gimmick Special Edition. Do you happen to know what the deal is with Gimmick Final Mix and whether or not it could ever be ported to anything ever? Because I really want to play it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You mean the arcade version, right?
The arcade thing, yeah.
I can try to answer some of it, but I think most of the thing, like technically, it shouldn't be technically you could port it to, of course you can. I mean, we've been doing that with like Toa Plan. That's the arcade versions of the Toa Plan. Like and anything can be ported to anything. Well, not really, but like from a technical standpoint, it's doable, but I think, and I'm just guessing right now because I don't actually know, but I think it's somewhere in the business terms that they want the full rights for it or whatnot. So, and I think they take pride in it being exclusive for their platforms. So I think it's something like that. When we wrote the contract with Sunsoft and whatnot, there was nothing ever touching any other Gimmick alternatives rather than the original game that we got like the rights to. So if they made something in that version that wasn't included in whatever we were getting, or if they would have made something for another platform or something that we didn't know about, like they could, in theory, they could have made another Gimmick game other than Special Edition without our knowledge, and we couldn't use any of that in our game. Like if they would have done a TV series or something like that, and we wouldn't know about it. We didn't have the rights to that. All the rights we had was to the original version. That's just me guessing. I don't know if you have any more details on that, Andreas. Like we're not really Sunsoft representatives.
No, I don't. Like the few things I've read is that it's Arcadia, I believe that's the name of the company, that they have like full rights and they are the decision makers of that particular version. So if they feel like they want to keep it in the arcades, that's where it will be, sadly. But that's things I've read on the internet. So take it with a grain of salt.
Gotcha.
I would love to play it on my Switch.
Oh God, me too. I would love to play it anywhere. I've never even seen one in person.
Yeah.
They just don't exist around here, and I want to hear the music and I want to play the game so badly, but it's just not an option. Bummer. I guess back to a question about the comparison between the original game and the newer game. The original game involved a bunch of those, I guess they were potions, little bottles you would collect that would let you like throw a fireball or replenish health, and they don't appear to be in Gimmick 2, at least not that I've found. Is that something? What was the thought process behind removing that stuff, or have I just not found them yet?
So I can spoil that they are not in the game, mainly because we felt that, like, we of course reworked the whole item system. Like, there isn't an item system, but you can carry stuff with you, and if you drop it somewhere, it will be there. And that's how we kind of switch those systems. They're not really, it's not the same, of course. It's two different systems, but and we kind of removed that because it's like, let's say you find these bottles when you combo Ohagis, or you find them in a secret area or something like that, and then you stack up your items when you meet the boss, and then you use them, but you don't defeat the boss. And then you start at the checkpoint, and then you don't have the items anymore. That's very sad and unfortunate. And that's like how do we design a system around that? Because we don't really want that. We want you to have a fair shot each time. We don't want backtracking. We don't want grinding in this game. Mm-hmm. Though that is a definition, I guess. You could grind for treasures and and look for secrets and whatnot, but I don't think that's the same thing. So we removed that system entirely, and like checkpoints give you full health. You will always get full health when you face a boss, and like getting extra hit points were in discussion and were about to be kind of in the game, but then we're like, but then we need to design bosses. Should we design bosses and hard challenges around you getting the 1+ health point or not? And of course you can do that. Of course you can design a game in multiple ways, and of course we could have done that, but we were like, we don't see, it's more a fan service thing we need to design around rather than something we actually want in the game. So we decided to not have it in the game. That's, yeah. And if we ever do more content for the game in the future, there might be a revisit of, old things you could use in Gimmick 1, but maybe in a different spirit, like if you could pick up bombs or something like that and throw them. That might have been one of the things, but sadly that didn't make it into this game.
Similar.
That actually went into my next question. Like, was there, is there additional content being planned?
I don't. We can't.
Or can
say
you
that
not?
now.
Okay.
There's
fair.
patches. There's patches going out in the near future, but or more content. We can't really say that right now.
Okay.
That's not a no. Speaking of game mechanics, this whole using your star as sort of a puzzle key, I think, is genius. How did that come into play? Because the original game, you would use the star as a weapon and to get around, but like this one, it's very. You really got to coordinate when to resummon the star so different platforms will reappear. Like those puzzles I've found to be just particularly genius and really fun and incredibly frustrating when I'm like, oh no, an enemy's there. I'd better summon a star and now I'm dead because the floor's gone. How did you guys come up with the idea of using the star as sort of a puzzle element as well?
It came quite early, and of course it was iterated for a long time. And then like 1 year from now, I think it was, that's when we were like, this is how it should work. And from that point, it worked the same way it worked in the final game. Like before we used, like there were clocks. So when you throw them into these star slots, we call them. And when you threw a star into a star slot before, then that started a timer and platforms and doors would be open during that timer. But we felt it to be a bit stressful and a bit it could still work if we would put it in there, but we were more interested in making you in charge of your actions. Like if you wanted to, you could just close this door when you resummon the star, and that was also a thing that we did because we didn't enjoy the thing of the original where you like it's very unclear when a star despawns in the original. Like, right. Of course, if you throw it down the water or something like that, you could just throw another one, but of course, cancel that star. But we were like, this game needs to be a bit more snappy and a bit more like you are in control, and that takes away control from you. And it's still your decision if you want to use that or not. Well, you have to use it, of course, when you put it into this slots. But that's something we really thought was a bit modernized and a bit more accessible, that you can do this, and I think works because you still have to like charge up your star. You can't just throw them instantaneously and just do a lot of damage close up to a boss or whatever.
Right.
But like all people that love the old game, some might not like that, but at least it's remappable because some people like to always have a star charged. And when they press the button to charge the star, it respawns and despawns in the world. That button is remappable. So if you don't want to do that and accidentally kill yourself when you want to shoot a star, then you can do that and put it on like right trigger or something like that. So you can easily click that button when you want to. But the same as tap being the default way to summon the star was also an accessibility thing because there's like a lot of people who didn't understand that you needed to hold down a button in the first game to throw the star. And it's from what we've seen in the accessibility community, you don't really want to do that if it's not necessary. So then we said that, okay, the tap is the default one. But I mean, people who enjoy video games and enjoy the original game will hopefully be that clever or interested in the game, so they will go into the options mode and check whatever they can change in the game, and hopefully they will change the star summon type and change it from tap to hold if you prefer it that way. But I don't really know what people actually prefer. I mean, it is more accessible with tap, but like me myself, I'm used to hold, but I can play it both ways.
It took me maybe I didn't even think to check the menu until after I talked to my friend who was not happy about that. It didn't take me It took me a minute to get used to tap, and I can honestly say I prefer tap. And when we were talking about the timer thing, that would be neat for like an occasional puzzle, but I'm so glad you didn't go with that in general, because I can't tell you how many times in this game I just stopped and stared and tried to come up with a plan, because some of these things are super complicated. So I'd just sit there and be like, all right, I got to press the button here, jump over to there, then summon the star to make that platform. Like, I need to come up with this multi-step plan. And so I would sit there and stare at it before doing that. So if there was a timer on these things, that would just be way too stressful for me personally. So I'm very glad that you went the direction that you did. All right, I've got a couple more questions, like a couple of quick ones, and then we can wrap up. The first one was Gimmick 2 just released, but it did release amidst a pretty darn busy month, and you guys released right next to the massive hype of Astrobot. How is the game performing so far, and do you think it got lost in the shuffle at all?
I would say that the game
I'm going to let
is...
Andréas answer that. Yeah, sorry, Andréas. Yeah.
Yeah, no worries. I would say the game is performing well. Of course, it's not ideal to release the day before Astrobot, like it's a massive platformer, but we had the release date like nailed down for a couple of months, and it's really hard to move release dates once you've set them. Like, for example, Sony, if they decide to just drop the game the day after, it's not much that you can do, really, because we are so dependent on many external factors in the marketing. But I would say the game is performing well. I'm very happy. I've been actually quite obsessed with Twitch lately. I often don't really tap into Twitch, but watching people stream Gimmick 2 has been like pure joy. It's just awesome to watch.
I have a couple of friends who are Twitch streamers. I should tell them to get on this one and give it a go, because I have one friend named Brian who is so much better than me at video games. It's ridiculous. He's able to do things with platformers that I like. He did Celeste and all the B-sides and the C-sides, and I was like in tears when I finally beat just the base game of Celeste. It's like, I did it. It was so good, but I never want to do it again. And he's like super good at this stuff. So I'd be very curious what he would how he would handle that, but I'll poke him about that later. Are there any other Sunsoft properties that you guys would like to take a swing at, or would you? I'm not saying it's too early to even think about that for reals, but would you ever consider doing a third Gimmick game?
I would love to do that. Like, we have so many unused ideas and things we wanted to put into this one. Like, if we lived in a world where like time and money wasn't a constraint like it is today, like we could easily have put in 2 more years into this. I think some of course people in the development wants to finish stuff as well, of course, but like
you don't want to turn into Silksong.
Yeah, exactly. No, but for real, like I would love to do a sequel of this. Like we had so much nailed down, which we thought worked that well, and we have so much more we can do, which is inspired by the original game as well, and more gimmicks, to put in there. But I guess time will tell.
I think you guys would make a pretty killer Journey to Cilia sequel. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I love that game. The music is awesome as well.
Yes, it is. It's more Naoki Kodaka, I think, right? Did that one? I want to say that's who that was, but yeah, great soundtrack. All right, well then I guess I just have one last question. This is a question that we ask every guest we have on this podcast. Which bread is the best bread?
Of all breads.
Of all breads. What do you think is the best bread?
I mean, I don't have that many. I would say the bread I'm currently eating for breakfast, and that's like Swedish Skogaholm limpa. It's not the best, but it works.
I'm just gonna go with like being the quirky one and say banana bread.
Oh, I don't think we've ever had a banana bread answered before.
ever had, but no, I don't think we have.
That's a solid answer. Banana bread's good stuff.
No, that's great.
It is. Yeah.
Mm.
It was well, it was technically not banana bread. I think it was more like a banana cake, but it was the thing that my now wife made for our second date. So it has a special meaning to me.
Oh, fantastic.
Oh, that's awesome.
Wonderful. Well, thank you guys so very much for coming on and talking to us. I'm utterly fascinated by this entire project, and I think Gimmick 2 is wonderful so far. Not to spoil my review or anything, but I'm very taken by the game, and it's one of those situations where it could have gone one way and it went another, and I'm really happy that it went the way that it did. It's very clearly a project that was made with a lot of respect and reference for the source material, which is exactly what you want in this kind of a situation. So thank you guys very much for coming on and talking to us. If you have any other final words, throw them out now. Otherwise, we will wrap this up and call it a day.
I have final words.
Yeah, you can go, Andreas.
I would say Capcom should do Dino Crisis Remake.
Oh my God! Why? Where's Dino Crisis? Why did you stop making those games? And then every couple of years they'll be like, "Here's this cool new looking game with dinosaurs in it. It's not Dino Crisis." Capcom.
Yeah, and just want to say thanks for having me, and I could talk about this forever. So, thanks for listening as well, I guess. And thanks for enjoying the game. And let us know if you actually have any feedback, because we would love to hear, because then we can do patches and whatnot, maybe for this game or the sequel or whatever. I love to hear feedback about what people actually think about the game.
I'm trying to think. The only thing that I had so far, one of the other things my friend said about the game that was interesting to me, and I haven't figured out what he meant yet, was he said that there was the warping checkpoint system. It made it seem like the levels went on forever, and I did not encounter that. He said I'd understand as I got further in the game, but now that I've played through all the basic levels, I'm still not 100% sure what he meant by that. But perhaps the checkpoint system or the warp system being confusing. Like I said, I didn't encounter it, but I'm really not. I got to ask him more about what he meant by that, because I thought maybe I'd come and run into it later in the game. The closest I can think of was the ship level. Almost seemed like, because it was so interconnected, you would wind up going back to, like, this room is next to this other room that you were at in the beginning of the stage, but it didn't feel like the level was looping or going on forever. I do think there were a couple of instances where I was playing the game and I was like, this level's been going on for a long time. I need to stop because I have other things to do. I did think the levels were possibly a bit too long. But again, that's like complaining about having too much ice cream, like, oh no, there's so much more of this great stuff. Please don't. But there were a couple of levels that I wouldn't say they felt like they dragged, but there were a couple that felt like this is a pretty decent time investment as opposed to what I was, I guess, expecting. But I swear I'm not trying to blow smoke up your ass. I'm having a hard time thinking of a genuine complaint or anything about the game. I think you've handled the accessibility stuff straight ahead. Like the whole holding to charge the star being an option, I think was a smart move. Yeah. Again, I'm not trying to be like overly, you guys are so great, thanks for talking to me in the review code. Like, I'm seriously, I can't think of much that I would have done different here. It's adorable. It looks great. It sounds great. It feels really good to play. I never got so angry that I wanted to stop playing. And I felt like I was getting close to that point with that cat boss that jumps at you with the club, and you gotta only hit them from behind, and then they start shooting arrows at you, and then the other little black things are falling in from the sky, and I was like, that took me a lot of tries to get past that guy. But even then, it was still, the checkpoint was right before him. Okay, here's a weird one. When you're doing a boss like that one, or what was it, the running away from the giant snowball thing, it took me out of the momentum that I had, because every time I died, the music would stop, and then the music would start again as soon as I got back into the room. it almost felt like if there was a way to keep the music going when you go back to that checkpoint so that you don't lose that, I guess, the musical momentum that's like kind of keeping you pumped to give it another try. When I get to like 10 or 15 tries on a boss and I'm hearing that like immediate beginning of the boss music every single time instead of it feeling a little bit more consistent, because like when you're playing the game, when you die and go back to a checkpoint, the music doesn't, start over again. The music doesn't stop and then start. But when you're doing that for a boss where it's right where this music is changing, it felt kind of odd to have the music consistently restarting when I failed over and over and over and over again. And I guess if you don't die a lot at the boss, it's not really a problem. But if this game is as difficult for other people as it is to me, having that music stay consistent throughout the checkpoint, I guess would have kind of felt a little bit less jarring.
Yeah, I mean, no one ever died on a boss during our testing of the game, and we had many people playing it, so we never saw that as a bug. No, just kidding, sorry. But that's
be better, Kris.
Something. Yes, yeah, just be. How did you do that? We need to review this scenario.
I need to be studied.
Just kidding. We're actually patching that because we also felt that. So that was just a technical error. And was a bit overlooked when we're making final builds and whatnot. So that is being overlooked, and that will, at least for one boss, it will be in the next patch. So that's great that you hear that and that we are on the same page of that. And but levels are being too long. I understand because it's a bit open worldish since there's no like loading points or anything like that. You like seamlessly go into the new area and there's no cutscene and there's nothing. Yeah. There's like a midway boss, of course, but there's nothing like breaking up gameplay where you can like, oh, I made this, and you come back to the level select and you select a new level or something like that. And I think that break might have been something you actually needed, so maybe that was a poor choice to go with how the original game had 2 biomes in it. Yeah, that's feedback taken. Like, we can't really do anything about that right now.
No,
but that's also why we like had, when you are at Ho-Ho, you can warp between them by pressing X, and that's just for like, if you restart the level, you don't want to play through all of the level to get to the boss if you just want to play the boss again, or if you want to treasure hunt. So you can, there's always 4 warp points per level, so you can warp to and those 4 sections, and then it might be easier than going through the whole level once again. And we didn't want backtracking to be a thing of the game.
Right. That's what it made sense to me. The only thing that I was thinking of with what my friend was talking about was maybe he felt that because the prompt was there, he was supposed to warp, and he was just kind of getting himself caught in a loop. I honestly don't know. I really need to talk to him about it because, like I said, I made it through the whole game, and I couldn't figure out exactly what it was that he was trying to say. But again, I didn't know how much time he had put into it already, or how hectic everything around him was going. You know, he's got kids and everything, so there's a lot of factors that could have been involved in that. As far as the number of secrets, I like that it tells you how many treasure chests you're missing. Is there any consideration to an optional hint system? Like, I know there's some super clever ones that I just stumbled upon. I didn't even notice that were there. And I wouldn't want it to be like give things away entirely, but like if you've gone through a level a bunch of times, you can obviously go on the internet and try to look up a walkthrough, but perhaps there'd be some sort of hint system, be like maybe something will, what game did that? I want to say it was like, it wasn't Ori and the Blind Forest, but there's some game that would do that where if you really wanted a hint, it would like kind of jingle you in a direction, be like, there's something over here, and not tell you what it is, just like, look over here. And that would kind of tell you where it is. Because I feel like there's a ton of secrets everywhere that I completely went past. There was definitely some that I saw and I said, I have no earthly idea how to do that. I'll come back to it another time. But has there been any thought to maybe incorporating a hint system?
You can check the changelog on the next patch that's coming.
Okie dokie.
There's something like that coming, but in the near future. I can't say when. It might not be exactly what you're describing, but it will help treasure hunters a lot. So at least you will know where to start looking, at least. But not like there's never anything that will like show you how the puzzle works. Then I guess you would need to look at a walkthrough or something like that online. Yeah.
Right. So I'm not crazy, right? In order to see the actual ending, you have to get all the what are they, plants, or what did I find out?
Stickers. Yeah.
The stickers. That's what they are. Okay, cool. All right, so I'm not crazy because I got to the end of the game, and my son was like, "So you're going to tell him you just beat the game?" I was like, "Well, no, I didn't beat the game. I got the bad ending." He's like, "Oh, it's a bad ending?" And then we got to the end of the credits, and Yumitaro was like, "But where's the girl?" I'm like, "See, I didn't save the girl. Like, didn't get the good ending."
Yeah. So yeah, exactly, and that's definitely something from the original, of course.
Yeah.
But there's more of them this time around, but they're a bit more forgiving depending on how you view it. But yeah, they're definitely harder than in the original, but like you don't have to reset the whole game if you like miss one and go to a checkpoint.
Exactly.
But you need all the stickers. Spoilers.
Oh, and I just have to say the 8-bit version of the original final boss turning out to be 3 of those guys stacked up on top of each other. I was cracking up when I saw that one. I finally took him down. He started glowing, and my son's like, "You beat the game!" And then the cloak falls down, and it's just 3 of them standing on top of each other. I thought that was hysterical. Good work.
Yeah, glad you enjoy that.
I am such a huge fan of where I despise where a lot of gaming is right now, but where this kind of gaming is right now, I am so happy. Interesting stuff happening with preservation. New games in old styles are just coming out that are really, really exciting, and I can't believe how good this game is. I swear I'm not just throwing compliments and because you guys gave me a review code. I've grinned so much while running through Gimmick 2. I'm also reviewing Yars Rising right now from WayForward, which is quite good and surprising, but I just stopped playing entirely because of Gimmick, and I have to go back to it because I have to review it. But I was just so completely taken with this game. So thank you for making a wonderful sequel to one of my favorite NES games.
Damn, and thank you for enjoying it that much. That it really means a lot to hear that. Like that's the ultimate goal, right? So yeah, thank you, and thank you for interviewing us. This was amazing.
I'm so glad you had fun.
Yeah, no, thanks for being on. I'm sorry I wasn't more involved. Kris usually dominates the interviews which is totally fine. I also feel just awful this morning. So I do apologize for not having as much to say, but I thank you for the review code as somebody who had not played the original Gimmick and had like no dog in the fight. Really, like I booted it up. I sat down to Friday morning. I was sitting down getting my chemo, and I was like, let me try this out. We're going to talk to these guys in a couple days. And my wife and I were just sitting there, in the chairs and just having an absolute blast. Like time just went by super, super quick, and it's just super charming and really, really awesome. So thank you for that.
Awesome. Thank you, man.
Okay. All right. Well, then we're not going to hold you up any longer. We've all got things to do, and it's nighttime for you guys probably. So we're going to call it here. Thank you guys very, very much for joining us. And I hope Gimmick 2 continues to be a big success. And I will keep my fingers crossed for someday a Gimmick 3, because I'm just really, really curious what you guys are going to do next. And I'm definitely going to have to try Wonderling, because I haven't tried that yet, and this game has definitely made me a fan of yours.
So glad to hear that. Thank you.
And hey, we're back. That was a super fun interview. Like I said, I hope you enjoyed it. I did.
I did too. I had a good time listening. When we do these interviews, I really it's mostly for Kris.
Oh man. After we did the interview, I talked to him a little bit, and he set me up with some contact information for David Wise. So I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna reach out to David Wise, and we're gonna get him on this show. It's my mission. It's my New Year's resolution for next year, because I don't know how soon I'm gonna be able to. I don't know how soon we'll actually be able to pull it off. We're nearing the end of the year where things are going to be difficult enough. I've got at least one more trivia episode to try to piece together before the end of the year. Like, I don't know if I'm emotionally capable of handling talking to David Wise this year, but my goal is to have him on the show in 2025. So
that's right. And I will lay out. I will have nothing to contribute to that episode.
You'll just be there to rein me in if necessary.
No, I'll be there to take the reins off.
You saw how nervous I got around Jeremy Parrish. I'm going to be this. I'm going to be this. It's not in person, so there is that. But I'm definitely going to be I'm going to be a mess for sure.
If it makes you feel any better, like I will host the episode that week, and I'll be like, joining us this week is Derek Wise. You know, like I'll get his name wrong on purpose. You know,
Fred Smarts.
Fred Smarts. Shut up.
I'm hilarious.
Oh, you're so funny.
All right, everybody, that is our show. Join us next time for the Alphabet Super Series. It was Dan's pick. It was what, Power Blade 2?
Yes.
Power Blade 2.
The second of the Power Blade games.
I
felt like everybody in our listening audience has probably played the original. That might be a bold assumption, but, you know.
Well, I've played a little bit of Power Blade 2, but it's been a while. So I'm excited. Looking forward to it. Should be fun. And that, my friends, is it. That's our show. We're on most social media platforms. And if you want to get in touch with us, we aren't very difficult to find. All it takes is a quick look at our show notes, and you'll see links to our social media accounts, as well as all manner of other fun stuff, like a link to our namesake, StoneAgeGamer.com, and more useful links than you can shake a joystick at. If you'd like to get early access to the show's episodes, as well as a bevy of other shows on the Geekade Podcast Network, check out our Patreon, also linked to in the show notes. It helps keep this show running week after week, and all our patrons are loved and appreciated. The show's theme song, Squared Roots, was written by banjo guy Ali. You can learn all about his wonderful music and more by following the link to his YouTube channel, also in the show notes. And finally, as always, we'd like to thank our intrepid editor Evan, for making the show listenable for all you folks. And we'd like to thank all you folks for listening in the first place. That is it. I am officially on vacation. On behalf of Dan and myself, keep playing games.